What do you? Okay, wait. What do you mean? How can you? What show? What show? You're saving what for the show? Go ahead.
Oh, is it on right now?
Yeah. Who knows? Just share it anyway.
No, J Mike's talking about Dan and give him a new nickname because he's showing us some skin before we press the big red button. So I thought a third fitting name might be Casper. I don't know. With the white, we used to call back in the club days, those girls that look awesome in the club, and then the next day not so much. We used to call them Casper because the beauty just disappeared.
Wow.
Hopefully this is R-rated, no?
Casper the dancing ghost. I like it. I can dig it.
Would you say that is Sammy Watkins like from week 2 on? Is that
wow? Sammy Watkins, Super Bowl champion. You can't take that from him, Gabe. Does Mike Evans have a championship? Nope. OBJ? Nope. Jarvis? Nope. Sammy Watkins is the greatest wide receiver in the 2014 class. Book it. Boom shakalaka. I'm saying that. Tally those guys up. Tally those guys up.
I get it.
4 guys.
Yeah.
How many wide receiver 1 seasons do they have? A bunch. How many Super Bowl titles? 0.
Yeah.
Sammy? Holla at him.
1,000-yard seasons, double-digit touchdown seasons. A lot between all of them. But
listen,
Super Bowl titles? No.
We call Tom Brady the GOAT, not because of how many 4,000-yard seasons he has or anything of that nature. It's is built on the greatness of his runs in the Super Bowl. Sammy Watkins was the wide receiver that carried his team, put the team on his back, though, like Marshawn Lynch talk about. Put the team on my back, though, and carried them by cooking. Yeah, hold me exactly by making Richard Sherman look like a has-been and carving up the San Francisco defense. I'm just saying that you can't dispute facts. Sammy Watkins, Super Bowl champion, hate it or love it. The underdog is on top. That's what 50 Cent once said.
Damian Williams might have something to say about that, J. Mike.
Wide receiver wins.
I'm not letting the facts get in the way of a good story here, Bobby. So you can keep that.
Wow. I don't think I've ever besmirched the name of Sammy like publicly to you, and you just snap back like that. I mean,
bro, you didn't wait 2 minutes. You didn't wait 2 minutes into the show to start.
I was just the heat, the fire. And it's here. It's the open bar. It's live. It's 9:30 Eastern, ish. All right. I even started a little early for you cats out. Just purring away, waiting for us to go live. I did it because we had a good little start there with nicknames and Casper. And see, with the Casper thing, I thought you were going with what Dan was showing us before we got on air. But you went a different route with the ladies and whatnot. But Dan, don't show your legs.
Get in more trouble, so I'm just gonna quit right there.
Man, I thought that's why you invited me here.
All right. Yeah. Shoot, we're here. J Mike, what's up, man? How are you,
bro? We continue the long tradition of keeping it a buck here and killing it here at the open bar. This is fantastic. We've got a full house this week. It's not often that we get to have 4 guests, never mind 4 absolutely incredible, dope guests. 1 long timer, a BFF of the show, if you will, and 3 noobs. Whoa, that was fancy there with the names popping up.
All right, get the people involved here.
And before we even got started, I'm not even going to wait this week. Not even 5 minutes in. Shout out to the chat. The chat is already lit-city. Good to see you all this evening as well. We're going to get into a lot today. I'm excited because there are 1,000,000,001 great minds on the show, none of which are named J Mike, and I'm excited to be among them. So I'm excited for tonight, man. Let's get into it.
How do you know that this is you got the show sheet? Who is responsible for the show sheet? Let's start there. We can introduce our first guest with that. Who is responsible? Dan. All right, Dan. So we will start with intros, and that means with you, my friend. How are you tonight? The GOAT District in the house.
Yes, indeed.
Hey-o.
Yes. Happy to be here. And Yeah, thanks for having us. JD and I just got done doing the Goat District last night, just so we could clear space for you guys tonight, and it's great to be here. You can catch me at Overhyped Sleeper on Twitter. Just drop the final E from Sleeper.
And we are having you for the first time. Is that correct? Because
Yes, that is
I know
correct.
we've podcasted before, Dan and JD, but apparently we only do crossovers on your show. We have to go over to your house.
Right. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's why it's great to be here. I am a virgin to the open mic, open bar, so we're excited to be here.
Well, we may as well just hand it over to your co-host, JD, the @Goat District handle himself. What's good?
Thanks for having us, man. I'm glad your moms and pops finally let you guys invite us over. You know, you guys come over and play with our toys, so now we get to come over and play with your toys. So we're honored, and this is gonna be fun, man. We're looking forward to it.
Do you know how hard it is to get a passport nowadays to try to get you across the border and whatnot,
know.
JD?
Yeah, we had to go through some hoops just to get you, on this show.
I just literally got my Nexus card a week ago, so I'm fluid, man. I can go across that border easily right now.
Yeah. Rolling through the 6 with our woes, with our goats. All right. So we lost Dan. Bye, Dan. It was nice to have you on tonight.
Hardly
prayers
knew
up.
you.
It's the Minnesota Wi-Fi, man.
The
Sketchy.
overhyped sleeper indeed. Yeah, he just ghosted. Okay, I get it. He ghosted.
There's
All right, Casper. Now I get it. All
Got
right,
him.
Dan. You did it. Okay, cool. Good joke. With your nickname and all, you ghost us. Ah, yeah. Okay, don't do it again. All right. You have the show sheet. We need to know what comes next. All right. Speaking of next, I believe Dan told me that Bobby was to be introduced next. My friend, I feel like he's my neighbor. Hey, pal. Hey, bud. How you?
How's it going, Gabe? How's
Dude,
it going, J Mike?
I miss you, man.
I miss you too. We talked about this last night. So for people who don't know, Gabe got me into less boring cocktails. Like Gabe came down to New York and was like, "All you drink are old fashions." Basically called me basic. And so now I drink more intriguing cocktails, and I have to I text him menus sometimes. I'm not even kidding. I text him menus of drinks, and I'm like, "All right, Gabe, what we got tonight?"
Yep. I'm always intrigued. I love to see what awfulness that people are trying to do or amazingness. But what are we flexing here, JD? What do you got?
We've got Great Lakes, man. My favorite IPA. A little Canuck action.
A little Canuck action.
He's going. He's gonna go chop some wood. Yeah, man. This is some good IPA right here.
Okay.
It's a little. What is it? 5.2. It's a little 5.2. Keeping it light tonight. I don't want to get too crazy on the open bar. I don't want to get carried out of the open bar. On my first time here. So
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna be able to carry you back across the lake, the river. I don't know how to get to Canada from here. So
Are you saying you don't want to wake up in the morning and have someone call you a ghost when that happens? Is that what you're saying, JD?
yeah.
I'm probably a ghost at my age now. Anyway, that's all good, man. I'm comfortable with it. I'll be like, honey, it's 10:30. I gotta go to bed, man.
All right. And last but certainly not least, he is third. He is the third Mike. You're going to have to tell me about that because I only see one other Mike here. And, 6, I suppose, but one named Mike, and it's not even the first name. So elaborate on this third Mike thing here, Mike.
Oh, it's actually more simple than you would hope. So I'm a third. I'm Mike Talenko the third. So I just figured I'd throw that out there and see if it stuck. And now it's third Mike everywhere, except for Instagram, where I'm the third Mike everywhere, which is weird.
That was taken.
It was, strangely enough. So
Okay.
what are you gonna do?
Yeah. You kind of one-upped him though with the everywhere bit.
This is true.
Yeah,
Well,
I like that.
and I only use Insta for work anyway. And as as J-Mac told you before we started, like I travel a ton for work. I'm in Chicago right now, but I usually hail from Cincinnati area. So.
Oh, Cincinnati, you say? You mean home of Skyline Chili Whiskey, brought to you by the...
Yeah, I hear it's good for soaking noodles in.
Oh man, it's a good Pepto Bismol equivalent as well. So just depending on the day.
Yeah, it ain't real till you got the neon cheese, right? So.
Look, ask Gabe about it. Gabe was brave enough to eat it, and for the first time, and then get on an airplane shortly thereafter. So,
attaboy.
he was here this summer or this fall, and literally, I met him for obviously the game that we went to, and right before he left the next day, we had lunch with John Bosch. And Gabe had it for the first time, and then about 2 hours later had to get on an airplane. So he was super brave.
Yeah, that was set up for a disaster. Heavy on the aster. Made it though. Feel like that was definitely something I'm going to put in my memoir at some point in this life of mine. All right. Well, enough about Skyline. We'll talk about that later, I'm sure, or I'll have to leave mid-pod to, do my thing. But J-Mike, you say we have this huge show. Plenty to talk about. What are we doing? You got something? You got something right away? What are we doing?
Well, there's a lot. No, there's nothing planned, obviously. At least not this week.
Okay.
But the tons of folks in the chat. And I do want to give shout outs. I haven't done that for a long time. First in the chat this week, Trader Joe. What up, Joe? He's everyone. He's doing fantastic work over at the DFPN. So with graphics and everything else. Russ Dynasty Outhouse was good, man. He and I plan on doing a live trade sometime today. And I'm so glad you brought this back up because I've got a question here about that shortly as well. Bill McCarthy, what's up? Super Duper Flex himself, Big B. Mr. Fusion Fantasy Football himself. What's going on, man? Commissioner McGriff, as you all can see. Skyline Protein Mix. Oh, gosh. That's
scary
you really
hours.
Don't like yourself.
Yep.
You don't like yourself.
I think it's more of a cleanse.
Yeah, for sure. Without question. Aaron Bogan, what's up, man? Hope you're good as well up in Maine. Spoonie. Even Spoonie's dropping in. See? You guys bring out the heavy hitters. Yeah, the folks that show us love who we haven't seen for a minute. You guys are bringing out the heavy hitters, so we appreciate you. One of the things that I want to do, guys, I'm actually curious your all's thoughts on this. The great JJ Zacharyson came out with a podcast. I think it was today, talking about some of his dynasty sells. And I'm really curious how you all think about this because I have a lot of the great DeAndre Hopkins all over the place. And it's not like he's saying he's not going to be productive or anything of that nature. And he gives a really good reason as to why. But DeAndre Hopkins moving forward, I'm just curious. Can we talk about this concept specifically of selling high, not so much on running backs. I want to talk about selling high on wide receivers. We've got a couple of guys, actually a whole generation of guys who are now entering this interesting age spot where
that's up to Dan.
Yeah. It's this really interesting like age group, right? So they're coming into their like 28s, and we think this is their primes and things of that nature. But pretty soon they're going to be 30 and they're going to be Julio, and you're not going to be able to sell them for a ton, right? So how do we navigate? How do you guys navigate this area where we try to maximize the value on these wide receivers who have been uber productive for a very long time, but we know the table is going to fall off soon? How do you guys navigate that? I'm curious.
Don't everybody jump in at once.
Yeah, well, for me, it really depends on, are you contending? Do you need the production, or is this, somebody that you should probably selling and just trying to get younger? If you're contending, that's just part of the price of getting those points. You have to pay a price that when he goes from 27 to 28, he's going to lose some value. When he goes from 28 to 29, he's going to lose some more value. But meantime, you're getting those points that you need to win leagues. So that's just the trade-off you're going to have to make. And you have to decide, is it worth it? If it's not worth it, if you don't feel like you can really win a championship, you're probably better off just trying to move that player now when he's still 27 rather than trying to wait until he's 28. I mean, we've got Keenan Allen on that same cliff. I know there's a few others as well. And, they're difficult to move. I just moved Keenan Allen for Adam Thielen and a 2020 110, I think it was. Yeah, 110. And, that was just it. I got kind of, people were like, that's not the greatest trade. But on the other hand, I was able to move off of Keenan Allen for somebody who I thought, with Adam Thielen is probably going to do just as well production-wise, and I got the 110 out of it. So that's kind of where I stand on it anyway.
It's kind of interesting this offseason, having played Dynasty for a while. I don't know how long all of you have been playing Dynasty. I know Gabe has been playing it at least a while. I haven't talked to anybody else about how long they're playing. I know, J-Mike, you're still relatively new in the scheme of things, but the 2015 offseason, right after that 2014 season where all those rookies hit, there was a huge youth craze among the entire Dynasty community, where it was all about those 2015 picks. It was all about getting the young players who are going to be on your team for the next 10 years and be these elite producers, and you need to sell whoever was already over the age of 25 because they might as well be using a Kane or Walker. And honestly, that didn't pan out the way people thought. Part of that was just the rookie classes coming in. And I think this comes from, honestly, our man, Jake, and playing with him a lot. But I always think of the value versus value to your team, meaning perceived trade value versus production those guys are bringing to your team. And so DeAndre Hopkins is not a guy that I'm necessarily selling unless I'm getting a blow-away offer for, because I know that I'm going to compete with him for the next 2 to 3 years. And if I'm trying to project out past that, I don't think I'm playing Dynasty particularly well, because we don't even know what's going to happen season to season. 3 years out, forget about it. That's just my take, though.
Yeah, I think there's 3 things you got to consider here. Anytime a player's value is close to a peak or anywhere near number 1 at their position, for me, that's an opportunity to sell. Definitely contender, non-contender is a factor. But you can even pivot, right? So even though you're a contender, let's say I value someone close to Hopkins' value right now, but maybe it's a younger player that everybody's not maybe pushing to that level yet, and I can add like a pick to it, add some value to my roster, then I'll do that. But I think the third thing to consider is, yes, we want value, and that's definitely how you build up your roster. But there comes a time where winning takes over, building that value. So I think if you're at the point where your team is ready to win and you're honest with yourself and you know what your roster can do right now, and you've got Hopkins there, it's kind of hard to go another direction unless you get, an offer with like Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, someone in that range that can, and then something on top. You're not losing that production. But if you're contending, you're not going to get rid of that. But again, these are the pieces that you got to move, because what happens is there's the opposite of that. Dan and I are in a big chat with some Dynasty people, and we were talking about it today. Like, one of the challenges is when you look at your roster and you've got a bunch of players that are not, like, their values are down now. So if you've got Juju, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, guys that I got a bunch of them where their value is just low right now. So it's not a good time to sell them, right? So
OBJ would be one.
OBJ, Kamara, not a good time to sell these guys, so wait until their values back up, hold those guys. But a guy like Hopkins, he's still at the top of his game, and Bobby talked about it, like 27 for a receiver. The last thing I guess I'll touch on is there's a big difference between your running backs and your receivers. The receivers, the longevity is there. 27 is young, man. They're just starting to hit that peak. So again, if you're contending, it's hard to move a guy like Hopkins. There's a lot left there. So the only way I'm really going to move off of it as a contender is if I can get something that I consider close to that value and then something on top.
I find it super intriguing how, and I guess this is to be expected, 2 guys from the same show kind of being on the opposite ends of the spectrum on this one, because similar to what, and shout out to Deltron in the chat, Commissioner McGriff. I think that he kind of rides in the camp with this basically being a value proposition, which is what you're proposing, JD. Like, hey, when they get to this top spot, there's a certain point where the value is no longer going to be as bright as it is now. Whereas Dan saying, look, like I'm happy to ride this train for a few more years and get all these points. So I find it obviously you can win either way, right? If you're making it happen with that. But I just find it really difficult to be okay with moving someone of the magnitude of Hopkins because he's been so good for so long, and now he's technically, I think, for the analytics crew. Shout out to all you guys for the analytics crew. He's coming into what is considered like peak age, right? This is peak producing years for someone like Hopkins, right? Is that fair?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I think he's been in his peak for a couple 3 years now. So, I think we had, one thing we do as dynasty players is we like to look at those curves, and we fit everybody on that same curve, and it says that wide receivers peak at 27, but that's the aggregate of all wide receivers, not each individual wide receiver. So every individual wide receiver has their own curve, and we have to recognize what the curve looks like for the particular player that we own, rather than just trying to mash them into that general curve.
And there is just one thing I will add. The one special thing with the receiver position, pretty much opposite to something like the running back position. Like if you threw a name like a Kamara up there, or like a running back, or even CMC right now, to me, the one thing with receivers is once they've hit that, wide receiver one season, that top 12 season, there's a higher chance that they're going to repeat,
right?
A top season. Whereas the running backs are not the same, man. We see them at the top and they drop like, the cliff hits really quick. So for me, your whole, I saw a tweet, I don't know if it was today, yesterday, just people with CMC talking like, oh, you can't sell CMC. He's a running back, man. At the end of the day, he's a running back. We've seen the values go down. Yeah, he's getting hit less. He's small. He's catching the ball. That's awesome. But he's number one running back right now. And if you look back at history, the number one running back is rarely back in that value the following season. So you've got that ticket to its max price. So why not capitalize, and build your roster even more? Again, the contender thing is a big thing, but just to differentiate between the receiver and the running back, these top end receivers, these top guys, they are guys you want to kind of gobble up and collect if your roster is contending. So I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. This is what I'm saying.
I'm about to say it sounds like you went full circle.
I'm Canadian, man. I'm political. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It does depend, though. There's no way that you can just put a simple answer to this. There's just not one. And yeah, sure, sell like based on logic, but what are you replacing with, and what's going to happen because you just did that? So
right,
you obviously, if he helped you win, you want to continue to win. So that's the goal, right? To win. And if it's a rebuild, then maybe that is the move. But it certainly just depends. This conversation's awful, J Mike. I need concrete answers. I need things to be determined, not to be determined, but to be determined.
Unbelievable. So unappreciative. So let's do this then. Let's do this. Let's say you're in a super flex league. Let's say that, and this kind of leads into another conversation. This will be fun. When we're looking at January ADP over at DLF, what up, DLF? Hope you guys are well. What quarterback in a super flex league? What's the worst quarterback that you trade for Hopkins straight up? So I'm looking at the top. I'm looking at ADP. This will be fun. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. I don't think you're getting Hopkins, I don't think you're getting any of those guys for just Hopkins, right? Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. Could I get Kyler Murray with just DeAndre Hopkins?
Depending on team needs, I'm going to say yeah.
Okay.
I think the youth hype with him is strong though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like the potential like that people see with him is really strong too. I think that'd be a tough one to wrangle.
Yeah, that's one of those ones where you look at it and you say, well, he's below Hopkins in the rankings, but whoever owns Kyler Murray probably is the one who drafted him, and so is probably kind of got a vested interest in him doing well. They want to be proven right, and they haven't quite yet been proven right. They feel like they're on the right track, but they want that validation of saying, yeah, I totally nailed that pick, and then being able to hold it over the entire rest of the league.
The other thing is,
I have one for you, by the way. In a super flex league I'm in, I just saw Lamar Jackson traded for DeAndre Hopkins and like 2 more firsts, which was a ridiculous trade.
Wow. Well, where are you guys valuing Hopkins right now? So start with receivers. Where are you putting him? Dynasty receivers. What is he? Top 10, top 12? Is he top 5 still for you guys? Is he top 3?
Listen, what they say in my books, JD, he's top 2 and he's not 2.
Ooh.
That's
and then who do you put in the top tier for quarterbacks? Who do you include in that elite group?
I don't want to dominate conversation here, but for me, it's just Lamar and Mahomes. So you're not in at least in my book. If I have Lamar or Mahomes, I'm not doing straight up for Hopkins.
That's kind of what I was getting at with Kyler. So that's why I'm trying to place Kyler in that QB ranking versus where you're valuing Hopkins. Because to me, if I've got Kyler, you got to come to me with way more than Hopkins, man. Because to me, I've done a couple startups. I said I wouldn't in the last couple of weeks, and Kyler in Superflex is a guy I reach for. Like after the top 3, Watson, Mahomes, and Lamar, I mean, I'm pretty much on Kyler. Yeah, Dak's there, but there's so much uncertainty right now. We don't know where he's going to end up. What's going to end up in Dallas? So for me, Kyler's kind of like the next guy that I like to pick up. And maybe I'm reaching, but again, our boy Nate Pilmer, shout out to the GOAT Leagues. You got to love the upside. And if you look at what the kid did as a rookie, we see what Lamar did and Mahomes and all those guys. So it kind of got overshadowed, but Kyler was a rock star as a rookie, man. And he can only be better next year, you would hope, in that system for a second year. And hopefully they kind of solidify the receiving situation. But I think you got to come to me with a lot more than Hopkins just to get, maybe not a lot more, but you got to give me more than just Hopkins to get my Kyler Murray share.
Sorry, J Mike. I'm looking through this ADP myself, and I was about to bring up the point of why kind of what the worst quarterback is that you trade for Hopkins, and there's not going to be many like 1-for-1 trades like ever in Dynasty. So I mean, I was thinking maybe what can you trade down for with some sort of QB plus if you're giving away Hopkins, and Kyler certainly fits that mold a little bit, but and Dak too, but you kind of keep going and it starts to get scary quick. Considering like
a 10,
what you're giving up, in just perennial elite production, and then you go to a guy like Baker that some people are still confident in, but shoot, you don't know. Jared Goff a couple years ago, I don't know, like Stafford's might be consistent, or Cam, like he had his years, and now is he injured? Is he playing for the Panthers? Like, seems like there's a lot of risk surrounding those guys, and I don't know. It'd be tough to trade away an elite guy like that and trading down in a package like that for me.
I might take a lot of hate for this, but the reason that I said I would take Hopkins probably over Kyler, or at least think about it depending on team needs, is exactly for the reasons you just listed, Gabe. We've seen guys like Baker come out and dominate as a rookie essentially, and then he had that down sophomore season and his value is down. And it's weird to be this guy because I am usually, you'll see all over Twitter, I'm usually team like quarterback value in Superflex is much greater than pretty much any other position. But I'm also starting to be a bit more balanced where I'm willing to wait a little bit on, let's say, the QB2 position. And so if you're telling me it's Kyler versus Hopkins, I might, as a Kyler owner, if I have at least another good QB2, I would at least consider it, because there is that chance that he's not who we think he is, and he might actually be cashing out at his max value.
Mr. Serviceable QB2 himself. He speaks.
I'm looking at this ADP as well, the DLF January 2020, and just looking at the quarterbacks in it, and man, what a bunch of ageists that we're doing these days. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Nobody's mentioned Russell.
We've got.
I'm very offended.
I was coming to
No,
that.
but Russell's above. I put Russell with those other three. So
I would take Russell
Right,
over
yeah,
Kyler straight up.
but
Come at me.
You've got Daniel
Oh,
Jones
yeah,
at
of
the
course.
number 12
Man.
quarterback, and then Matt Ryan
Bro.
at number 17. Matt Ryan's only 34 years old. That's still young for a quarterback. And Daniel Jones is 22. What are we going to hold on to Daniel Jones for the next 16 years or something? No.
Dan, let me pause you for a second. Let's come right back. I'm gonna come right back to you. In my Trade Addicts League today, and this is partially why I asked this question. It was a trade that happened, and it's just one of those things where I was kind of shocked by the sticker shock at first, but it was like, okay, maybe this makes more sense than I originally paid attention to. So and we're talking about these players. So we're talking about Amari Cooper was traded in a Trade Addicts League today. Obviously, these are incredibly sharp people, and I like the deal a lot because I find it interesting for the value proposition for both guys. Amari Cooper was traded today straight up for Daniel Jones, who is number 11
oh god,
in ADP.
who was this?
Under
Let me
quarterback.
ask, then.
I'm
Who
not.
is this?
I'm not even doing all that.
Come on.
I just want it to be known. Like, obviously, these, like, if you believe in a quarterback, and specifically these guys who are really young before they've blown up or broken out, like, this is probably the last chance that you'll be able to buy Kyler at a manageable price before things get bonkers. Maybe even the same thing for Daniel Jones if he continues to do his best Josh Allen impression, right? or something of that nature.
But stop
Dan,
spoiling the
keep going.
article I'm putting off.
My bad, dog.
I'm writing a Daniel Jones article that I keep talking about, that I've been talking about for a month, and I haven't written a word, but it's happening.
Keep going, Dan. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to throw it out there real quick, which is part of why I asked the question in the first place.
Yeah. So, I mean, just looking at the quarterback ADP, you've got Daniel Jones at 12, and he's had one very uneven up and down year where he turned the ball over like crazy. The 40-point weeks were nice, but how do we know that's going to continue? I mean, Blake Bortles, Mitchell Trubisky, don't guys like that give you pause when you're thinking about where am I going to draft Daniel Jones in a super flex? Meanwhile, at quarterback 17, you've got Matt Ryan, who's about as steady as they get. I mean, the entire offense is really based around the passing game. He's got just incredible weapons, and we're going to keep him at 17. No, I don't get that.
Dan's
To me,
going to make me burn out with some Daniel Jones stats that I've been saving for this article I've been meaning to write.
all right, let's have him. Just hit
So
me.
among rookies that started at least 12 games, he had the most in a 12-game sample over 300 passing yard games. Him and Kyler were actually tied, but because Kyler started more, he has the most in just that 12-game sample of someone who passed for over 300 yards, which is pretty good. He also had a ton. I mean, yes, he had those huge boom weeks and he had the fumbles and whatever, but you have to, and this is coming from a very biased Giants fan, obviously, but you have to consider the fact that Saquon Barkley had a hurt ankle. Golden Tate missed some games because he was suspended. Sterling Shepard had the concussions. I'm not saying everyone's going to stay healthy, but if they stay healthy, or if they draft another guy or bring another guy in, you have to imagine that he does have some upside that he may not have shown yet. I agree. The fumbling is a huge issue, and I plan to talk about it in this imaginary article that may or may not get written at some point in the next year. But he is not getting – it's really interesting if you look. So there are some people who have him at QB 12. And then if you look at the DLF staff ranks of QB ranks, there's some people who have him at QB 12 and then some at like QB 17. And some of that, I think, is people holding on to this idea of like he was a gross pick. And some of it is people questioning whether he will be inconsistent or not. So you're not getting QB 12 prices for Daniel Jones right now. You're just not. But hopefully I eventually will make an article that will make you change your mind, Dan, that he is worth those QB12 prices.
I'm looking forward to reading that article.
My
Or
only
not reading.
my only thing with that, Bobby, is look at the supporting cast, right? Like I understand there was injuries in New York, but those injuries mattered. Whereas in Arizona, I mean, if a receiver got hurt, who Isabella, who cares? Like who else was there? They had nobody other than their running backs, which Drake came in late. David Johnson had a decent start. Chase Edmond is a dream with the upside, hoping that he gets a chance this year. He looked all right. But other than that, they didn't have like a stud tight end there to kind of give the rookie tight end a nice, or the rookie quarterback a safety blanket. You got to look at the weapons he had to play with, right? So, I mean, Jones kind of sat into like Dan's Corvette, you know what I mean? And had a shout out to Dan's Corvette. But you know what I mean? Whereas like Kyler Murray is the sports car.
To be clear, I'm not saying I would take Daniel Jones over.
I think
Kyler
that's what you said. No, I think
you're comparing the rookie season.
I'm saying at their prices, I would wait to take Daniel Jones over taking Kyler when you have to take him.
But you're also comparing a guy that, like, to me, you're like, what's Daniel Jones's upside, like his ceiling, right? Like he's a QB2, no, in serviceable, exactly. What's Kyler Murray? He can be Lamar Jackson next year. If things. We don't know what Arizona does this offseason, what they add. And even if they don't, these rookie receivers, I mean, these guys have talent. That second year thing, he's a rookie. So I don't know. I just think that Daniel Jones came into a bit of a better situation. I get the injury thing. But when you got a guy like Evan Ingram there, you got Saquon Barkley, arguably with top running back, top two running backs. You don't have that in Arizona.
But you're also kind of just making the argument for Daniel Jones. What you're saying is he has the weapons. Those are things that we look for in fantasy quarterbacks now.
Meaning what?
Yeah, I mean, part of it too, I think we need to look at, how do the Giants want to play moving forward? They have Joe Judge as head coach. They put in Jason Garrett as the offensive coordinator. It's always instructive to look forward as well and think about what type of system they're likely to implement. And Joe Judge seems like he wants to put in, another one of those Belichick systems, which is defense first. Let's get the defense right, and then we'll worry about adding offensive pieces. And while they have some pretty decent pieces in New York right now for Jones to work with, I don't know if they're going to be as wide open once they get that defense together a little bit, and they can hold down the scores. Part of what Daniel Jones was doing was just running around trying to win games while his defense kept blowing leads. So if that doesn't happen anymore, then where are we going to be?
Dan, if I'm wrong about Daniel Jones being a good fantasy asset because Joe Judge made a Belichickian system in New York, I will gladly eat the L on that.
Okay.
This has the makings of our first open bar bit of 2020.
Oh my!
That's what this has. What's the bet here, guys? What's the dividing line? What's the Daniel Jones line of infamy here?
Oh, I don't know.
What's the difference in their ADP right now? That's what so right now.
Difference in who?
With Jones is what, 12 according to you guys at DLF, so he's 12. Kyler Murray is 5. So they're both, it's a low QB1 versus top mid QB1. It is dynasty, so it's hard to relate that to their scores, going into next year. So what are we exactly betting on? Just 2020? What's the deal?
Jones was within a point per game of Kyler Murray this past season in terms of fantasy. I will bet that they finish within a point per game, minimum 10 games played in 2020.
As the official bet master on this podcast, I would say that's a pretty fair bet.
Woo!
On both ends.
Woo! 1 point per game. Dan, what say ye?
Now I have to
listen,
decide how-
don't Casper us right here.
Mhm.
Now I got to decide how much I like Kyler Murray because I was talking. I'm getting shoehorned into JD's bet here. Is what?
Just to give you guys just last,
That's-
if you're looking at the rookie seasons, fantasy points per game, Kyler was 12, whereas Daniel Jones was 16. The difference is about a point. So Bobby's like Vegas over here. His over under is pretty accurate, you know.
Right. Yep.
So Dan, we taking the bet, or do we need to have a meeting sidebar?
Well, yeah.
We got
Bobby is the hound.
But-
I'm telling you guys, I'm confident. I'll probably lose this bet because anytime I'm confident, that's what happens. But
right.
I will say what did surprise me.
I'm
Daniel Jones-
gonna go ahead out. Yeah. You know what the heck? Let's have fun. Let's take this bet.
Roll the dice.
Yes.
There we go.
Hey, all right.
You only live once.
Right.
You know, and
That's the motto.
really, Kyler and Matt Ryan were about the same in points per game. So you know, I think it's fair.
Daniel Jones got
Daniel Jones versus Kyler Murray, 1 point per game. So if it's more than 1 point, I win.
fantasy points.
There you go.
yeah, minimum 10 games played. So injuries
Minimum.
do matter.
Okay.
But
But at least since we're keeping it on a PPG basis, it won't matter that much.
I don't even know what the terms are. I just agreed to the bet.
It's a Jorts bet. So
Yeah,
Jorts bet.
a Jorts Avatar bet. Yeah,
Jorts bet.
I've already gotten yelled at for buying things just for jokes for the fantasy community, so I can't do a choice bet.
come
you're-
on, Bobby. You've had a
you-
mustache for the community. You've gone full Gardner Minshew for the community.
That mustache was for men, and the community.
everybody owns an old pair of jeans and a pair of scissors. You'll be all right.
That's right. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
Rafe will be
I-
I
behind.
think
That's fair. I do own an old pair of jeans and some
You know,
scissors.
And I think your Daniel Jones angle comes down to the idea of what we play here day in and day out, which is risk reward, right? So you get a little bit of that risk back on where you're probably going to pick them up and the value you're going to get in that. But you take that risk on like the health, and surely the Giants can't be riddled with injury every year, right? But
You'd be surprised.
yeah, wait. Like as a Raiders fan, I never know what's going on with my team. So, but like the reward there could be really good, right? And I feel like if you're balancing it right, like right now you're looking at Kyler and everybody smells and sees the reward, and they don't really see the inherent risk as much. So I like your angle on it. I'll wear jorts with you if it doesn't go your way.
Nice.
All right.
Oh,
Pretty
even.
three-way
Even up.
Jorts bet.
2 against
Ooh,
2.
This
I
is
didn't agree to
amazing.
a three-way. I mean, I don't know about that.
Uh-huh. It's a serviceable three-way, though.
Oh yeah, true.
Off the rail.
And we have our title of the show.
Do we all have to wear jorts though?
Yeah, somehow JD is the only guest that's not going to have to wear shorts. As well.
That's a mess. Oh man, that's a mess. I can't even.
I don't know if I should apologize or say you're welcome. Like,
We got it in the
Hey,
bag.
Mike, I got a little trade action if you guys want
Yeah.
one little trade to talk about here. It's not tight end preem, but it's got a couple studs at the tight end position. Our boy Randy, the outlaw from the goat leagues. This is Super Goat, which is Super Flex. So he sent wait, I can never read these things. I don't know who sent which. Dan, help me out. Did he send or did he buy Kelsey?
Let me
Man,
pull
these
up
sites-
the trade. Hang on.
So basically Kelsey went for Darius Slayton, Austin Hooper, and a 205. I'm going to let you guys chew on that while I grab beer.
And that is not cheap tight end premium, you say, yeah?
It's not. It's just super flex.
Okay.
Superflex, yeah.
So we say Hooper 205 and something else for who?
Let me pull it up.
Kelsey,
Was it Slayton?
this is what I believe we have here on the official open bar ticker. If you join us live on Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern ish, you have the official open bar ticker going below the faces of these beautiful gentlemen, sometimes ladies. The trade is Kelsey or Slayton Hooper in the 205 in a Superflex non-tight end premium league.
Yeah.
Snoozy.
I'll let you guys comment because I'm already in the league. So
I'll go out on a limb here and go first. I've been known to say plenty of crazy things. So so I don't know. Like I find the Slayton Hooper pick side intriguing, and I know that Kelsey's like the premium asset, obviously. But you wonder now that he's got a ring, how the hell old is Kelsey? Is he like late 30s, mid 30s?
I think he's
early 30s.
He's
Early
48,
30s,
yeah.
31. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
he's
48.
31, I believe.
31. So you wonder how much longer he's going to stick around, what his longevity is going to be. He's been fairly healthy, which is good. But, I love Hooper a lot. And I feel like Slayton and a pick in this draft would be enough to push it over for me, at least. I'd go with the package.
I hate to
After our three-way comment, I bet.
I know I hate to beat the joke down, but that is kind of a serviceable three-way right there. Slayton, Hooper, and 205.
Wow, if you're going to
Hooper
beat one
leading
down,
the
that's
pack.
the one.
All about the package.
Yeah.
I love this package. So.
Got a hoop in it.
But I think similar. Go ahead, Gabe.
I was just gonna say, what's crazy is that this is actually being discussed, and Slayton is in this package as well as like the 205, and all you have to add for it is Hooper to get Kelsey. I mean, that is crazy to me. I don't care about Slayton or the 205, but to give up Hooper is kind of, a bummer to me because I feel like he could hit that next tier where Kelsey, Ertz have been these past few years, and he might be up next on that. Dan said that Matt Ryan's only 34 years old. That's young for a quarterback. He said it. I heard him say it.
Yeah, but then you're assuming that Hooper is going to be in Atlanta, and I'm not sure if that's a fair assumption.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
He
he might not even be there. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
he could be anything, even a boat.
He could be in a boat. Dan had to throw that in. But what? As a Ridley owner, I would, I love Hooper, but as a Ridley owner, I wouldn't mind Hooper leaving because I think his fantasy points are like quadrupled when Hooper's not around.
Yeah, I think this basically you're taking a very safe commodity in Kelsey, or you're getting kind of the grab bag here with Slayton, Hooper, and a 205 because we don't know where Hooper's going to end up. Slayton had a lot of touchdowns last year, so we don't know how sustainable that's going to be. Though I know Bobby certainly hopes it's sustainable.
Well, man, first you came for my Daniel Jones, and I said something. Then you came for my Darius Slayton.
Next, he's coming for Saquon, and Bobby's just going to flip.
Right.
According to Zach Reed, Tacit Assassin 13, I am the number one Darius Slayton fan. And
I'm actually a pretty big fan of Slayton myself.
Oh, so. Bobby, did I miss your whole Slayton take when I walked away?
No, there's not really a big Slayton take. It's just he had chemistry with Jones, but I could easily see it being killed if they draft someone, even though they probably shouldn't. There's all these mocks of like the Giants taking Jerry Jeudy at like 4. Don't do it. Just don't.
Please do that, New York.
that would.
So the exciting part about Hooper for me too, right, is by comparison, he's like half a decade or more younger, right? And if he isn't on the Falcons, right, so if he's not with the ageless one, Matt Ryan, right, then the next ageless one maybe. Then I feel like he's been in the league long enough and people have seen enough to like know what they're getting and know what they're going for if they're going to sign him. So I don't see somebody signing him who's not going to use him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like this is going to be like, dare I say, like an Ebron situation if somebody signs him where like he looks great for a year again and then all of a sudden you're like, where the hell did he go? Like people really know what they're getting with him.
I just feel like if he goes somewhere else, so you might not know what he's getting, just because tight end in a new situation, new offense,
Sure.
it's going to take a bit for him to catch on.
Yeah.
It could be, but I mean, it's not like you're gonna sign Hooper for his blocking, right?
Exactly. That's
True.
my
I will
point.
say
His blocking is relatively terrible.
Turnstile level, right?
It's approaching that. It's not quite Matador level, but Turnstile, yeah, that's probably pretty close.
There's slight resistance.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think whoever ends up signing Hooper is probably signing him for his receiving ability, and then often he gets used split out wide. So a lot of times he's not even going to really have that inline blocking or even pretending to block anything like that. So I think he'll probably transition a little better than some tight ends would transition over to new offenses. But, there's always the danger that, you're going to get somebody like the Colts who, signed Ebron, and then they already have Doyle. And so they end up just, killing both of them for fantasy.
Yeah. Minnesota.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, run 3 T sets. Oh, actually, 3-way. There you go.
Yeah.
Seahawks.
The difference between, just to go back to Ridley without Hooper, just to give you guys, it's pretty significant, man. You're looking at 10-point difference. So 22 points when Hooper's out of the split versus 12.7 for Ridley. So it's pretty significant.
Yeah, and I think I want to push back on you guys for a moment, because not long ago we were just talking about DeAndre Hopkins, and I think he's just a consensus top 5 guy for everyone at wide receiver. And we said, hey, if we're going to move him, then I need a guy who's not too far behind him tier-wise, and I'm going to need some juice on top of it. So I don't know if this is the juice that would get you where you want to be with, because I think if you're taking on the Slayton Hooper 205 side, you're giving away the best player, and you're taking on all the risk. You're taking on the hope that Slayton doesn't get usurped by Judy or whomever else. You're taking on the hope, and not to mention, if we're looking at Jesse Reeves, what up, Jesse? I hope you're in bed, son. Jesse Reeves points out that, hey, if a guy who flashes like this when the situation is kind of a poop sandwich around him, what's the likelihood of him actually maintaining this heat as time goes on? Who's to say that they don't bring someone on to be able to usurp him? So you're banking on Slayton, you're banking on Hooper landing somewhere and continuing his ascension in target and market share that he was doing in Atlanta, in which, just in case for the folks watching at home, this is Hooper's target share or targets in his first 4 years in Atlanta: 27, 65, 88, 97. And that's 97 targets in 13 games. So he's starting. I mean, he was truly heating up to be one of these guys, maybe even to break into the top 3, right? To be the new, maybe replace Ertz or something like that. You're taking on all the risk, and I don't know that juice is worth the squeeze for Kelsey, who's 30 and doesn't turn 31 until the end of October next year, and he's magnificent, and he's with Mahomes.
I'm with J Mike. I snuck in that I would take the Kelsey side, but you just summed up exactly why so perfectly that I'm not going to add anything else.
I think guys like Kelsey and Ertz right now are kind of being devalued more than they should, because the advantage that they offer at their position, especially tight end premium, which most of us play now, I'm telling you, man, I repeat it over and over. If anybody listens to our show, you look at my teams that made it to the finals or that competed this year, and it's something that I changed a couple of years ago in the way I approach my roster construction. I never invested highly in tight end, even in tight end premium. I was like, you know what, I'll get guys low. I'll get lucky and throw guys in there. But last year I invested. I went out in my FFPC 500. I invested in a guy like Kittle. It's the first year in a super competitive league where I made it all the way to the finals. Any other league that I made it far in, I either had Kelsey, Ertz, Kittle, my favorite, and then even Hooper a bit. But I find like Ertz right now being completely disrespected, and Kelsey the same. I think people forget that these tight ends are playing till their mid-30s. Most of them, there's injuries and it's a tough position and all that, but it's not like a running back or receiver where 30 hits and that's it, it's over. So I think that there's opportunity here with getting yourself a stud and giving yourself that advantage over most of your league mates going into next year.
I also want to say that if you said that Memph was involved in this trade, I know who sent which side.
What up, Randy?
Spit it.
I'm a hustler, homie. You a customer crony.
Yeah.
I just I just find that interesting. And now here's the thing too. Let's say Austin Hooper stays in Atlanta. Does everyone keep the same answers?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, for me, it's the whole deal is just the fact that this isn't a tight end premium. So that makes Slayton in the 205 more valuable versus Kelsey. So that changes the answer for me. If you're talking tight end premium, then I'm going to go the Kelsey side.
Can I ask a follow-up question, Dan? What are the chances that Slayton or the 205 is getting in your starting lineup? So really, Kelsey versus Hooper, at least in my opinion.
Especially for your FFPC
I mean, in
league,
the short term, no, he's not. But you have to take a look at your team situation. Without looking at the rosters, which I don't have memorized for those two guys, I don't know. But if I'm looking to, try to, if I feel like Hooper is going to be pretty close to Kelsey, and then I could get Slayton in the 205 on top of it, then that's the deal I'm making. Which is I think where Randy's coming from on that. I don't think he needs Slayton, but he's just looking to kind of groom him for future value and then move him later.
Yeah, totally fair answer. Just curious.
Yeah.
I just love the perspective. That's good stuff. And what's funny about Kelsey, and I don't want anyone to ever point back to this episode and say I was the downfall or this moment was the downfall of Kelsey. Kelsey's had an absurd amount of health in the last several years. Since 2015, he has started all but 2 games.
Right.
And like that's absurd for tight end, right? So
it's super unusual.
Yeah.
Here first, Kelsey's about to have a freak short side.
Sell Kelsey now, dude.
Well, I mean, look at Gronkowski. He dinged the Lombardi Trophy, and then his career just went to crap. And then now Kelsey's been shotgunning beers off of it. So yeah, I mean, it's over for Kelsey right now.
So this is it.
We'll see him on Masked Singer next season.
The other thing,
and JD, I think that I'm taking after you now in leagues. I've been listening to you, and I've been listening to your fight for trying to figure out tight end, and just like, you know what, man, screw this. I'm not gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna go. Specifically in premium leagues, I'm gonna go try to pay what it takes to get Kittle, pay what it takes to get Kelsey, and let you guys figure out the rest of it. Let you guys work to figure out what everything else looks like. I've been listening to you for a couple months saying that now, and I think that I'm probably on board. Speaking of, I need to go try to reach out for some Kelsey right now. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. Well, tight end is the anti-Oreo. I mean, the middle of tight end sucks.
Yeah,
just sucks.
Ooh, let me ask you guys this. This will be fun. So in tight end premium, would you take Kelsey or Hopkins?
I'll take Kelsey.
Kelsey.
Yeah, it's opportunity cost, right? You replace Hopkins, whereas you're not replacing Kelsey easily.
Yep.
Gabe?
Yeah.
Facts.
It also depends on the premium. If you're talking like trade addicts where it's 1.75, it's easy. If you're talking like 1.5, which most leagues do, it's more of a question.
Okay. What do you think, Mike?
Oh, no, I think it's hard to disagree for me with JD. I feel like once you hit that kind of premium, like a player like that has a standout value. That the only premium league that I can think of that, well, I'm in two, but one of the premium leagues where I was smart with tight ends this year, I picked up Kittle and it paid dividends. And I'm usually a tight end fader.
And there's two basic things that you can follow here with tight end, similar to running back, where we say, get running backs on good offenses with good offensive lines. You want your tight end tied to a good young quarterback. You guys swear on here? I don't know. I don't.
You can't. You're good. You're good.
Release the demon.
Is better than Mahomes right now. You know what I mean?
my God.
You've got Mahomes.
Right.
He's Kelsey's there, man. He's not going anywhere. Mahomes is not going anywhere. Yeah, post Super Bowl hangover. These guys are going for a dynasty, man. You've got, one of the main pieces in the best offense in the league right now. So that's what you want in your tight end. And it's called premium for a reason, guys. It's like Superflex. Like, I was in denial for my first 5 years in Superflex. Oh, I don't need to invest much in quarterbacks. Yeah, and then you get smokes. You got Cam Newton, Darnold, and Mariota as your quarterback. It gets a little rough. You know what I'm saying? So you start changing the way you play, and you invest a bit more in those positions. Guys, running backs and receivers are the easiest positions to replace, period, in fantasy. So, you got to maneuver them a little differently, but they are the easiest. You got a lot more of them coming up than stud tight ends and quarterbacks.
JD is also making the case for Mark Andrews, by the way. I just wanted to get Mark Andrews' name out there because I love Mark Andrews.
Oh, man, Bobby, you and I. No, just
Well,
no.
Well, JD, your argument
How many
for
touchdowns did Lamar Jackson throw last year?
So I'm supposed to go on the GOAT District in like a week, right, Dan? Is that
That is correct.
Setting up nicely.
We're just setting it up.
It's like
That's
a
all.
wrestling. It's like a wrestling match right now. We're just getting the hype going.
well, and,
You want a piece of me?
from that replacement perspective too,
Who the fuck are you?
when I think about tight ends, I totally get what you're saying too, JD, because even if you find like a stud tight end out of college, how many years does it usually take for them to catch on, right?
Right.
So-
exactly. There's a long ramp.
Oh God, you're gonna make me reconsider my life.
And
now.
even when they catch on, even if they catch on, how long does it take for them to catch on to the point where they're giving you the edge that
Right.
you
Yeah.
got them for?
that, that Kelsey Kittle edge.
You can always get these tight ends later, man. Like I in Dynasty, tight end's probably the last position I'm going to draft in a rookie draft because as we know, our accuracy on these things are not as great as we think to begin with. But that position, like you said, man, it takes so long. There are outliers, but there are better ways to build value in the rookie draft, in my opinion, than going tight end, even in premium.
Here's the thing with tight end, though. I mean, we talk about the long ramp up with tight end, and for the most part, that's true. But if you take a look at the super elite guys and the ones who have stayed at that level for multiple years, I mean, they were precocious pretty much right out of the box. You've got Gronk. Ertz was pretty much right away. He was a producer. Kelsey right away was a producer. He was hurt for a year, but then as soon as he got on the field, he was a producer. Kittle was a producer. So we've got a lot of examples of
That was
guys.
Mark Andrews.
Yeah, and Mark Andrews, so that's Bobby's case right there, is that he was precocious right out of the box. And that's the only thing that gives me pause. What I'm definitely concerned about is Lamar Jackson going to really throw 37 touchdowns on 3,000 yards again.
But then my question to that is, when you drafted Kittle, he was a 5th round pick. You're telling me you drafted him in a rookie draft knowing he's going to be George Kittle?
No, definitely not.
That's
Definitely
my
not.
point. That's exactly
Yeah.
the point, right? So now you buy
Right.
it because he's the number one tight end.
Right. I'm just saying that once he started playing, then all of a sudden it became obvious really quick that, hey, this is an elite guy. Whereas a lot of tight ends, we think it's going to take 2 to 3 years to ramp up to get to that point. So, and often the ones that that take a while to ramp up just never reach that height, or they reach it for a year and then they come off it again.
Like, where are you guys on Fent and TJ right now? Are they guys you think are kind of the next guys in line to creep into this upper echelon? Is Hunter Henry a guy that you guys see going in there? Or where are you guys on that kind of next tier that have a chance, that we think have that upside? Anyone invest in these guys last year? TJ.
I have Hawk on auction, a 14-team Superflex auction league. That I didn't get him super cheap either. I definitely paid up to get him because it's partially T Preem, but I went in knowing this was probably going to be the case. I hoped he might break out, and after that first game, I got pretty excited. I'm not going to lie. I realized he couldn't play the Falcons every single week. The heartbreak of the century. But, you go in, if you draft these guys high, and in some cases I think you should, you have to know they're generally going to take time to develop. I will say the biggest cheat code, although it's really hard to predict, is when you can get a guy like George Kittle later in your rookie drafts and he suddenly breaks out. That adds a huge amount to your dynasty team's value. But not everyone can do that, and not everyone is George Kittle. So sometimes you do have to – I'm not saying I think these guys are the next, elite tier, but sometimes you do have to look at the next guys if you don't have those guys. And I think Hawkinson and Fant can still be I know it's not – this is basically the serviceable of tight ends, but they could be top 10 tight ends.
Yeah.
Hashtag serviceable.
Bobby's brand.
Thing
Yeah,
is,
so
their buying window is bigger, though. You know what I mean? They have a bigger buying window, whereas you've got guys that hit quickly because they had high draft capital. They hit right away, and you're not getting them. Like AJ Brown, AJB, right? Dan 101 hashtag
101.
Whereas Kittle, you hit, but you didn't invest. You weren't. It's like a lottery ticket at that point when you picked up Kittle, right? He's a fifth round tight end. So there's a difference there. That's all I'm saying.
This is funny, and I like this conversation because of this. And I'll let you guys guess, and it won't be too hard to figure out. Obviously, the last season for tight ends, and I think this is a key thing. Obviously, we've got to follow the targets, right? Follow the opportunity. You can try to follow what things look like or who's trending in the right direction. Last season, if we're looking at tight end targets, there were 4 guys who eclipsed the 100 target mark. Kelsey, Ertz, Kittle. Do you guys know who the 4th person was?
Andrew? No?
Not Andrews. Andrews had 98 targets. He was close.
Yeah.
The Eagles had no one else to throw to.
Who'd you say?
Goddard.
Oh, nope. Goddard had 87, which was 9th in the league. They had 2 they had 2 tight ends in the top 9 in targets.
They're in
Wow. How about Waller? It's got to be Waller then, huh?
It's Waller.
Waller.
Had 17 targets. So what's funny is, it's probably some recipe that sometimes opens up way late in the game, like Waller, where he's walking into a situation where man, Carr's not going to throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field. And there's really no one else to be able to throw the ball to in Oakland because things are really bad. And then also you have seasons like Evan Ingram 2 years ago, who did the whole George Kittle thing before George Kittle, where he was the number 1 wide receiver when everyone else was dead. Then Kittle did it the next season, which was, I think it was 2018. And then in 2019, we see him ascend. So I think it's almost like you have to have the right combination of everything aligning, which might be the case with Mark Andrews, because if they don't do anything at wide receiver next year, what do we do? What are we doing?
Ingram to buy low on him because Daniel Jones is having that big season to beat Kyler Murray.
There's that. But and then also, if you look at a guy like Tyler Higbee, you talk about things aligning well. Brandon Cooks goes out with his injury and his concussion, and also Gerald Everett as well. Tyler Higbee did not see a game earlier in the season. He saw 1 game with more than 6 targets before week 13, and it was in week 4 where he had 7 targets. Everything else was 3s and 1s and not much going on. This is how he ends the year from week 13 on. This is stupid. 8 targets, 11 targets, 14 targets, 11 targets, 12 targets. Right? So all of a sudden everything aligned for Higbee, and I don't know what that means moving forward if they'll continue to use him more, but for the longest, Gerald Everett's been the guy that they wanted to leverage in that spot, as well as the 3 receivers ahead of him. So does Higbee carry any kind of weight or momentum moving forward? You hope so, but they haven't proved that over his first 3-4 years of being there, even though they did resign him before his blow up. I don't know. I feel like things have to really align. If you're not a super special tight end, things have to align for you well for a real breakout. So I don't even know how to project that or anticipate that.
Yeah, and one of the players that was pacing for over 100 targets was Evan Ingram too. So there's another one for Bobby.
It's happening.
and Daniel Jones. It's all about Daniel Jones. I'm trying to win this thing for you.
Jamie, that's I mean, it's not very good to say, like, as someone who gives advice of fantasy, like, all right, so this is the truth though. Tight end, get lucky. There you go.
Look, if people
There
are coming
appears
to me
to
for
be no
advice, they're in the wrong
correlation
place.
except for wait for guys and honestly take a stab at a few because they're going to
Right.
be inexpensive. So it's okay to take that risk. I mean, last year it'd probably be like, you know, Mark Andrews, I know 2 years ago was left for dead, and Ian Thomas maybe could see the spotlight here soon. Who else am I thinking of? Dawson Knox. I like Dawson Knox first season. He was fun. So those guys could easily, you know, propel themselves into the top 10 too.
Yeah, but again, it kind of comes down to, you know, those guys in the middle probably, you know, especially if they've been there for a while, they're probably not vaulting their way up to the top. So you want to take your shots at the guys who are still kind of finding their way and try to get one of those guys who's going to, you know, who's going to be cheap. You want to take a lot of cheap shots at tight end, or else you want to, you know, like JD was saying, or else you want to pay for the premium one and, you know, just go to bed and rest easy.
Yeah, and I forget what the original people were. It was Hawkinson and Fant, and who else did you say, J. Mike?
In terms of what?
So, in terms of like, who do we think is like that person who's the jump off?
Oh no, I didn't say that. That wasn't me. I don't remember who said that, but those are
yeah.
certainly candidates.
So I wasn't really going there anyway. I was just trying to figure out who the other name was. So my I know my posit here is like, so, you know, we don't expect them to ascend, right? Necessarily, they can't all ascend. But to Dan's point before about the middle, like of being gross, right? Do we just get a less gross middle out of these people?
It would be nice.
I think that was our hope this year with all the names. Like you looked at the landscape, your Njoku's, your Ingrams, your everybody, and you're like, there's no way that the middle can be gross. And we come to this point, and everything was still gross, right?
Yeah. But you wonder if after they get, you know, a couple seasons under the belt and you know, the typical growth pattern that we have for tight end, do we see the middle like even out? Do you believe that's something that happens, that it becomes less gross, or are we always stuck in this landscape where it's either high end or good luck?
Yep.
All right. Well, next question.
I'm gonna go get another beer.
I can't remember when it hasn't, man, and I don't want to start, you know, betting now that it's going to be different.
Sure.
By acquiring middle tight ends, I'd rather acquire the cheaper tight ends in the hopes that they are the, I guess, middle tight end that you're looking for that somehow flattens out. But I'm certainly not going to buy middle tight ends in the hopes that they hold. You know.
Sure, no, and I mean, this is coming from somebody who just told you I'm a tight end hater. Like, I'm terrible at draft, and I wait forever for them typically. But you wonder if that levels off, and it's not necessarily going to make me like fade off of that strategy if that's what I do to like wait for later tight ends and wait for them to pop. But it makes me wonder: does it make in a non-tight end premium league? Does it devalue the guys on the top just a little, knowing that you're going to get something fairly consistent out of somebody in the middle all of a sudden? Not that we know anything, but if that does rise, it makes me reevaluate that a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you're right. If you get a decent, you know, tight end, say 4 through 12 or something like that, then that definitely takes the shine off the top three in a non-tight end premium. In a tight end premium, then
Well, yeah,
it's going to be a little bit different, but you know, it's going to take some of the shine off of them too. So
I'd be remiss if I didn't say this on behalf of John Bosch, because we've had a lot of talks about T premiums and what they actually do. They don't make the top end guys. Technically they do. They don't make them more valuable in terms of against other tight ends. They'd make them more valuable against other positions.
Right.
On T premiums, you're still starting those guys, and those are the guys you're starting. And you know who your top guys are, and you know who your growth guys are. So it doesn't really change their value versus the position, which you would hope maybe the premium would. It just makes them more tradable, essentially.
I feel like there always seems to be some sort of recipe-ish with running backs and wide receivers that people cater to, some sort of breakout age and dominator rating with wide receivers has been a heavy topic for the analytics crew, and even to cross over with the film guys. And then, with the combine coming up, there are some things that sometimes correlate to some positives, but I haven't heard the tight end bit, or at least I can't remember one at this time. We need to find it. Let's pause the pod and let's go find it.
Yeah, about that.
Don't you guys have like a team of researchers over there at the open bar? You got like a couple monkeys back there doing some research.
JD, there's let me say this real quick, Gabe, and you can go back. So there's one set of podcast hosts who join best balls every day and are in FFPC leagues and are just, jet flying, woo, limousine riding, woo, the Ric Flair bit. And then there's other folks who are just, another set that are low budget, are just trying to keep the lights on, just trying to make sure YouTube posts their video. I don't, so you can take that for what you will in terms of researchers.
I'm going to tell you about my crack team of researchers. I've got 3 chimpanzees, a bottle of tequila, and a dartboard.
That's actually why Dan paused earlier when we were talking about our bet. He had to run it by the chimps first.
Guys, he's giving me Kyler +1. Come on, we can do this.
All right. So somebody in the chat is asking about Gesicki, right? So to me, Gesicki is a little bit of a bad bet, just because we've got Chan Gailey as the offensive coordinator in Miami, and he's probably going to be running his 4 wide sets again, which is probably going to de-emphasize the tight end. So just schematically, I think we're probably looking at something where Gesicki is struggling to get targets. I mean, that's not to say he couldn't be good enough to end up demanding them, but I think the scheme works against him a little bit. So unless he's coming at a discount, I'm probably going to stay away.
No Gesicki fans? Nobody heavy on Gesicki?
Come on, Bobby.
Dan, no. I did write an article last offseason about how Gesicki was, he was that guy before Fant and Hawkinson this year. Last year, Gesicki was the guy that, as our friend Kyle Breck said, had that full circle on the draft mock poll. And so he had the athletics, he had the profile. He started to break out a little bit. You do wonder, the Dolphins offense is obviously going to be very different because they're going to have some new pieces in there. Preston Williams might come back. Devontae Parker started to break out. So it's really hard to say, but I can't imagine his price is to the point where you're paying anything ridiculous to acquire him. And he does have the athletic profile of someone who could be a very good piece at tight end. So I'm not out on Gesicki. I'm not saying I'm necessarily in, but I'm in enough that I'll argue with Dan about it.
Okay.
Serviceable.
All right, JD, you've been writing all these down, right? So Bobby and I can have a 15-rounder next week.
I'll be the mediator. The ref.
That's right.
Put on my stripes. I'm trying to look up some Gesicki trades over here, but there's on DLF. There's nothing too crazy. You've got him going for a second, a third, and a fourth in one league, and then you've got him going for like Cameron Brate and a third. So I mean, his value for where his value is going based on these trade. I mean, he went for a 2021 first, so that's equal to like a 2020 second to me. So, and that's is that a tight end preem? It looks like it's a 14 team first of all, so and they can play 1 to 5 tight ends. So he's obviously got more value there. So based on his current price, I think that he's not a bad buy, but similar to Dan, he's not someone I'm going to invest to, because like I said earlier, you want to tie your tight end to a good young quarterback. And as much as I love Fitzmagic, they bring in Tua there. I don't expect Tua to play this year, just with the injury he has and them keeping Fitz there. So yeah, he's probably not someone I'm investing in this year. For me, if I'm investing into the tight end position, it's because I know what I'm getting back. And that's kind of where, if you can get these guys in a startup at a good value, that's fine. You put them on your bench thinking, the guy you picked, his value goes up. But otherwise, I'm putting my money in the pot for the guy that's going to produce and, one of those top guys. Or I wait until my team is a contender and I've got the pieces to move so that I can get myself one of the top guys. That's kind of how I'm approaching it.
Right, exactly. You want to do what Trader Joe did. I'm reading the chat. Sold Ian Thomas and a 21 first for Mark Andrews tonight.
Ooh.
Nice.
Joe's been on fire with the
Joe
trades
got
of
that
late.
look too with his YouTube Avi as well. He's like,
Strong.
Yes.
Oh, I just realized I'm like, how's Dan seeing this chat? Oh, okay.
Hey, that's my man right there. Huh?
I haven't figured out how to join it without knocking myself off the pod, but baby steps.
And I'm the techie guy.
I was just about to say you're always getting on Dan about being behind and you up with it, and now here he is showing you up.
Dan's there for a reason, man. He makes me look good. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
I'll hold
So
you
how
down,
do you
Stan.
guys-
That's not a tech thing. There just doesn't exist, man.
Right.
Hey, J Mike, are you in Pigs 3? I thought you were.
The artist formerly known, my man. Yeah, I was, and then I am I am
See,
no
what had
longer.
happened was
What had happened was, I had some shuffling in life, and I had to let that one go.
I hear
Sadly,
I just asked because Ingram got moved for TJ Hawkinson. Our boy Tyler, that guy's by far the most active guy in this league. But
Did he get Ingram or did he get Hawk?
he gave up Ingram for TJ.
Hawkinson's his boy. I mean, Hawkinson's has been Tyler's boy for
All right.
a long time.
He seems like a bit of an ageist because he sent me. We did a direct. I never do direct flips like that, like same position, one guy. He sent me Jimmy G for Darnold earlier in the season, straight up, and I was like, "Well, I'll do it. It's all good, whatever." But he seems to go for the younger guys. Sorry, Tyler, if I'm giving away your secrets.
I'm just glad we finally took away Joe's face. It was really hard to pay attention to what everyone else was saying when Joe was just sparking at me out of the corner of his eye. Just putting
Yo, that's FF Steal Your Girl if you ain't careful.
whoa.
Don't let Grace walk around. That's all I'm saying. So I guess before we get ready to shut down shop, what else do you guys want to chop up with? I reached out to the chat. I know February is not the biggest news cycle, and it's not necessarily something that we dig into. But what else do you guys want to hit on or chop up? I know we've got the rookie stuff that's been, flooding timelines, and I've been part of the problem or solution, whatever you prefer this time of year. But I'm excited for the combine coming up and scouting over there with the Dynasty Dummies. But what are you guys excited about right now this time of year?
J Mike, didn't we? I mean, I'm just gonna ask you straight up. Your boy, I saw some sort of update about. We've been talking about the Falcons all show. You know how much you hate Julio.
Oh,
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
I'm just
Don't do that.
wondering. Just wondering what's next.
Are you talking about for Devonta?
Yeah.
Man.
What?
Oh man.
What?
It's a dark day. It's a dark day in Chocolate City right now. If Devonta's cut, I think there's a piece of me that will just never recover. It will never be whole again. Devontae was my first, my last, my everything, and I don't know how I'll recover. But that makes for a really exciting place for a running back to land in this rookie draft. So somebody in one of the chats I was in said Brian Hill season.
All right, look,
That's
like 25 for 30. I can't take another Brian Hill
It is
game.
never Brian Hill
coming
season.
back. Dan knows.
Like, no, dog. Not gonna be able to do it.
Yeah.
I was cheerleading that season last season, and there wasn't much.
You gave it great effort, though,
Yeah.
JD.
I
You gave
did.
it great effort.
I thought
It was
the
not a lack of
opportunity
effort
there.
on your part.
He was Tevin Coleman 2.0. You know, here's the red carpet, then he tripped. You know what are you gonna
Right?
Stilettos, man. It's
Oh,
tricky to walk
man.
sometimes.
do? With the spikes, you know what I'm saying? Come on, man.
Yeah. Get us Jonathan Taylor to Atlanta, okay? Mhm.
That would be juicy. And
That would be
his hope
juicy.
that their offensive line actually shows up this year, and they don't have the rookie get hurt, and they're actually
Right.
decent because they were awful a lot of the year last year. And I think toward the end of the year, they kind of got it together a little bit. But golly, that Atlanta is so. Okay, I'm so glad you brought this up, Dan. Who are offenses that everybody, not everybody, here I go again, Gabe. You're supposed to keep me honest with that.
Hey.
Everybody, nobody. Okay, who are offenses that you see that get just don't get very much love or respect? Who are offenses that you're willing to buy into now? Because I think that Atlanta is going to be really, really stinking good next year. Period. And from an offensive perspective,
I mean Julio just every year, man, just gets disrespected in you know,
Right.
in general in fantasy. You look at right now, people are just ready to give him away just because he's, you know, a little older. He, you know, whatever's, but he's the guy's a beast, and you know, it's like we keep saying, who are you going to replace him with, right? Atlanta had a bit of a down year. I think like Dan put out there, he's got his little Matt Ryan pom-poms on, but I don't blame him because I just did a startup. I actually went to Dan and I was deciding, who was I deciding between? Dan, was it Ryan and who again?
I don't remember who it was. I definitely remember the Ryan side though.
Yeah, and it was like a younger quarterback, but I think it was Darnold. Actually, I think it was Darnold. Was it Darnold?
Yeah, it might have been. That might have
Darnold
been
or
it.
Jimmy G, one of those guys. But again, if you look at what Matt Ryan's done as a top end quarterback, he's giving you a winning week every week as a ceiling. You know, so that's really valuable. But people get blinded by the age. You know, and again, the quarterback, similar to the tight end, we're seeing guys play into what age at this point. So guys like Julio get disrespected. You know, we want the AJ Browns. You know, whoever's coming up right now as the Debos and those type of guys. But I think that when it comes to receivers, similar to tight end, if you don't have that ageism and you're able to put some of these guys on your roster and put them in your starting lineup every week, it's not sexy, but they produce. And I think that, again, it comes back to let's not forget why we do this every week, guys. We're here to win. We're here to win leagues. And I think that people get too caught up in the whole value and making your team look good for whatever 2-3 years down the road. You want your team to produce on a weekly. And Julio and this Atlanta offense is going to be firing, I think, in 2020.
Right. Yeah, they're definitely going to be good. I mean, you know, I think a couple teams we can look at are Miami. They've got like 90 some million in free salary cap, and they've got by far the most draft capital of any team available as well. And you have Brian DGAF Fitzpatrick throwing the rock. So, you know, that's an intriguing combination to me right there. Another one I think that's pretty intriguing is Indianapolis. I mean, we had a little bit of a failure to launch with them last year. Everybody was all excited, and then Andrew Luck retires, and you know, all of a sudden everything just kind of goes fizzle. But there's a lot of intriguing free agent quarterbacks on the market. Indianapolis has plenty of cap room to go out and get whichever one they want, and they have a decent amount of draft capital too. They're more than average as far as what their draft capital is. So, you know, they're another place, you know, like if you're looking at a Marlon Mack or something like that, you know, last year he just wasn't getting the touchdowns. He wasn't getting the goal line work. You know, the offense was just struggling in general. So he might be one of those kind of sneaky buy him a little bit low.
That's another player to add to our fight for next week.
All right. Yes.
Writer downer.
Really happy that we were able to create your all show sheet for next week. Our pleasure.
Hey, Les,
Well, that's what we're here for. I mean, I don't know
Wow.
what you guys
I didn't think
are.
about that, J. Mike. They don't create the show sheet for the open bar. It is where the show sheet is created.
Come on.
You
I
got
have a
played.
player instead of an offense that I want to highlight, which is I don't think Tyler Boyd is getting enough attention considering that
Hey.
Wow. All right.
All right.
Look, Bobby.
Okay. Wait. Stop right there, Bobby. Stop. We agree.
You
on
guys
Tyler
just
Boyd.
became best friends right there.
Shut it down.
That was his olive branch, Dan. That was his olive branch.
I know it.
I like the call, Bobby. That Cincy offense with Mixon. If you're doing best balls right now, he's Chubb gets taken, and you got Cooks in there and those top guys. But Mixon is sexy, and his price is legit right now. I mean, he's at a nice value in my opinion. For he could be a top 3, by the end of this season.
Yeah, I mean, people see the Bengals as a dysfunctional franchise, but you get a guy like Joe Burrow, and if he plays anything like he just played in his college season, then you have suddenly a franchise that looks much more functional.
Yeah. I mean, let's not be crazy. They are still very dysfunctional at the top, but
Bengals.
they have managed to hire a coach who possibly has a clue here, and they have set themselves up in a position. They got a couple offensive linemen last year that didn't even play, basically, and they'll be getting those guys back. So that's like getting a couple first-round picks right there. And then they're going to add in Joe Burrow, and then you got Mixon, who was heating up towards the end of the year. You got Tyler Boyd. AJ Green didn't play at all last year. I mean, this offense really does look like they are primed to do something, and the defense probably isn't going to be that great. So it could be one of those situations where they're chasing points a lot and having to keep the ball in the air and keep moving.
And Austin Hooper is going to sign with the Bengals.
Yes, there you go.
Thank God Tyler Eckford will finally not be a breakout candidate every year.
No, wait till he signs with the Patriots, though.
Him and Rudolph.
Yep. I don't know.
Mike,
I still carry a torch for Eifert. It's sad and pathetic, I know, but
There's another offense that's Detroit, the Lions. I know in the GOAT leagues we got a bunch of depressed Lions fans, but Stafford got hurt last year. He was killing the game, man, before he got hurt. And they got Galladay there, Marvin Jones. You hope they bring in new weapons. We talked about TJ. Kerryon Johnson, I mean, I find he's very polarizing. So if you are a believer in him, I think he's a good buy right now. But that offense has some sneaky weapons, and they're valued on the lower end right now in offenses. So similar to like a Washington or Carolina, you got some pieces in there you could probably get at a discount at this point.
I want to hear Mike's offense. Mike, we've been dominating the conversation. Chip in here.
No, you're okay. So, I don't know. Like, I want to go out on a limb on something here, and so I feel like the Bears have underperformed like crazy, right? You consider the kind of talent they have, and where Tariq Hill was like a season ago, Tariq Cohen was a season ago compared to where he was last season, right? Even with David Montgomery, like you expect him to drop off, right? But not completely like disappear off the planet. Like I was reading, I was editing a DFF article not too long ago with somebody throwing up some stats, and like the differences in what was going his way was kind of crazy. And that's just one guy. I know it all kind of rests on Mitch and like what the hell, like can he decide if he wants to be like a solid quarterback or not? But I feel like that offense for me hit a low this year that it can only go up from. So it's not sexy, but I think we saw some sparks too. We saw some life come back into Allen Robinson that we were afraid that wasn't necessarily going to be there, right? And I'm interested if any of that translates over to oh my God, I'm drawing a blank now. The other wide receiver there,
Anthony Miller.
Oh, J. Mike.
Come on, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Come on, Mike.
So
Be gentle, please.
Be gentle to you. I have a lot of Anthony Miller shares, so maybe it's just me hoping, right?
That makes two of us, bro. All the A-Rob, all the Anthony Miller, both of my sons.
Yeah.
A-Rob was such a nice value last offseason. A-Rob was probably the best buy last offseason.
Yeah, that was a good call by you, JD. There's no doubt about it. You were all over that one. And to me, I think with Chicago, they're going to have to do it with largely the same cast that they have right now. They don't have a ton of cap room. They don't have a ton of draft picks. So it's going to have to be the guys that are there. But we have seen them do it. I think it comes down to, is Nagy going to let Trubisky play the way Trubisky needs to play to succeed, or is he going to try to fit him into that pocket passer mold? Because when he was trying to turn him into a pocket passer during the first half of the season, it was awful.
It was brutal.
It was. I mean, I'm a Vikings fan. I love that part of it. But, for Chicago fans, I mean, come on. It's a pretty sad when this is really sad in a lot of ways because the Vikings let Chase Daniel beat them. But, I mean, they knock out Trubisky, and Chase Daniel fits the offense that Nagy was trying to run better than Trubisky. What's going on with that?
Gabe, what's your offense? You've been awfully quiet.
I've got a couple I've been thinking about. I've been wondering about a couple teams that appear to have some QB movement, and I'm wondering if they, or even like three teams, I suppose, that have some QB movement, that if they still hold with the weapons that are still there. Chargers is definitely one that I think about a lot. If Tua lands there and he's able to play this season, or I don't even care if he's not able to play this season, I want all the Chargers. And then the Bucks. I'm curious about, speaking of DGAF guys like Fitzpatrick, Fitzmagic, can the Bucks be like a top tier, passing offense, or just offense in general? I guess if it's not Jameis Winston just hucking up, rainbows, but I'm not sure. And then with the Panthers are also intriguing to me.
Yes,
they have a lot of really good players that I don't know why Cam wouldn't be there if I'm the Panthers, but I just think he's very good at football, but it's possible he's not. And I've seen a lot of things where they might go and get a quarterback too. So if it's not Cam, I think there is a chance that they're not just going to sit for a while, with Will Grier.
You don't think there's any chance you're going to tank for Trevor though?
Yeah, but just the way that sure, that's a good idea. But the way that it's reading, it seems like they don't want to do that they want to, and I don't know what the fuck they want. I'm just reading shit. And it seems like they, I just saw Teddy Bridgewater to the Panthers. Like I just saw them trading up to get a Tua or Herbert. I don't know, whatever. So I don't know. Those three offenses, like, they have it. And even the defense with the Chargers, like, man, I don't know how the Chargers never fucking did it without Phillip Rivers there. It just baffles me, man. So maybe that was the issue.
The Chargers are the best situation, for a quarterback to just come in and just sit down and just enjoy what's there and kind of take that team to the next level, because they're not missing much. Right now, other than there
has been no team better at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory than San Diego Chargers.
Seriously,
and the Los Angeles Chargers.
It is insane. You flipped the single score. Like, I saw that statistic at the end of the year last year of like flipping the single score games or whatever, single possession games, and the Chargers are up top. And I'm sure that would happen forever.
Exactly.
That's every year. Single possession games with those.
That's why they finally had to get Phillip Rivers. Their nightmare.
Here's going to be the intriguing thing.
Come back in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes left. And it's Phillip Rivers' nightmare too. Every single game of the Chargers came down to one last drive. Phillip Rivers, 2 minutes, one score. Can he do it? And the answer was no.
Flopped it. You couldn't do it.
But I'm also glad I asked you, Gabe, because there wasn't enough DJ Moore love on this pod until you started talking about the Panthers. So
I know. We got two guys in the top 15 of ADP, and people are nuts about not Debo Samuel, Curtis Samuel, as well. So I mean, yeah, like great offenses there.
Yeah, and the nice thing is their defense is probably going to really blow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because they're losing everybody off that defense. I mean, the entire defense is a free agent this year.
yep.
So
maybe that is a team that tanks for Trevor if they don't work it out with Cam, if they don't work it out with some sort of free agent QB, if they don't happen to trade up for a guy, they'd be in a great position to just.
Yeah, with those offensive pieces and a terrible defense, I think they're going to be, they're going to be a heck of a fun
young team too.
Yeah, they're going to be an interesting team. I mean, I think they're going to be in some pretty wild games. So,
I just find it. Sorry, Dan, to cut you off. I find it really difficult to believe that. Like one thing we're finding out in the NFL, and we just talked about it earlier. It's not easy to find a starting quarterback elite. I see a lot of laughing. What's going on?
Just look right on the screen.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
It always makes it better with Joe looking at you like that too.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, JD. I knew that one would happen where everyone laughed.
I love how they're saying that we got all the whistles. They got video, they got graphics, we got pictures, we got a headline. It's like I feel like I'm on CNN. I'm waiting for Wolf Blitzer to come walk right now. Talking to you, about fantasy.
I agree. I giggled when I saw it in the chat, but like with the face there, it's even better.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
like, hey, he left it all in the bedroom.
No.
Sorry, JD. Go ahead, my man.
No. I was just saying. I think sometimes we're a little not like ignorant, but impatient to the fact that it's not easy to get a legit QB, like a starting quarterback in the NFL. We're quick to dismiss these guys and say, oh, they're crap, and Brady's done, and Rivers done, and Trubisky's done. And look, man, that's one of the hardest position in sports, period. Right. So a lot of pressure. And it comes back to opportunity cost. Who are you going to replace him with? So for me, I don't know if you can find someone to replace Cam right now. Who are you going to bring in? Brady? Like, is Brady really better than Cam? And then are they really going to tank with all the weapons they have there right now? I don't know. To me, if I'm the coach, I say this on the GOAT District. If I'm coming in to the Carolina situation, I'm going to buy myself time. I'm going to say, you know what? Let's give Cam a bit of time here. Let's give him the season, maybe a season and a half. And then it doesn't work out. I'm buying myself more time. Let me go get my guy. As opposed to, you know what, Cam's no good. I'm going to bring in my guy now. If it doesn't work out, that leash is very short. So to me, if you have a starter on your NFL team, it's very hard to let that go. And I don't see Cam not being the starter in Carolina next year if he's healthy.
JD, I was listening to everything you said, but right after we had that image of Joe talking about Rivers leaving it all in the bedroom, you said hardest position and pressure. I was trying to have a straight face, but couldn't do it. Had to point it out to you.
Michael Scott whispering over your shoulder. That's what she said. Oh man. Hey, Pedro.
I will always show this if he ever says that. Yeah.
Hey, Pedro.
So I got a question for you guys. Just I feel like before you close this thing, I got to ask this. I got a bit of pet peeve, but I want to know if I'm like maybe just maybe it's just me, or maybe this is just I need to adapt. But one thing I get annoyed with when we're talking trades and dynasty. I mean, I love offers, I love action, I love trades. But one thing that just kind of bothers me, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong here, is when someone sends me a DM or sends me a message and tells me they're interested in a player on my team, but that's the end of it. They just say, oh, yeah, I'd be interested in him. But you know what? Here, you do all the work, and you go figure out the offer, the proposal, who you're interested in. Dude, if you're interested, either send me an offer, let me know what you're offering me, or don't bother me. Like, it just bugs me. It's like, why are you even bothering? That to me, that's not the start of a conversation.
No,
Dan, note this one down for my
No.
one trade with JD.
Okay. Yes.
no, that's straight bullshit. And like, of course you're interested. Guess what? I'm interested too because he's on my fucking team. Like, so like,
Get me
So-
interested. You know what I mean?
Well-
make me want to move him. Not just hey, I'm interested.
so like,
Counterpoint.
but I think
All information your opponents give you are good information.
Yeah.
So even if they're just telling you they're interested in your player,
100%.
any offers, you can store that away for later and think, all right, I know they're interested in this player. Maybe there's a different trade later down the line, and you have that in the back of your head. I mean, I know it gets talked about a lot, but Leo's notebook and just the psychology of other owners. Anytime anyone tips their hand like that, I don't care if you send me an offer. Great. You just let me know you were interested. Now I know you probably value that player at least decently, and I'm going to keep that in the back of my head.
I get that, and I think where JD is coming from though is like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the idea that like somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I want that guy on your team," and then they like give you nothing, right? Like it's the idea that it's like, "Hey, cool, like what are you offering?" Right?
Yeah.
I find that the trades that work out the best, and I'm only in a league with one of you on here, right? But Jake, Mike, you can attest. Like I talk a lot before a trade with you. It's pretty common, right? The trades that always work out the best is the one for me, anyhow, are the ones that like you come in, you're honest with your values, like off the jump, and if you're looking for something, like offer something, and like don't be an asshole and like lowball, like that's not cool. But like just offer something, like even if you don't like. Even if you don't know what the person's going to be interested in, like just go with something. Like JD, am I wrong? Like, is it just lazy to just not go with like?
Yeah, that's what
something?
I like.
Right?
I've never gone to someone and said, "Hey, dude, like I really want to buy Travis Kelce," and then just like mute. You know, like, what do you offer
Cool.
to me? To me, it's like walking up to a girl in a bar and going, "Hi, I really like," or "Hi, your dress is really pretty." And then you just like walk away, you know, like what is that accomplishing? Nothing. Like
It's like Dan flashing his leg and then disappearing.
And then it goes nowhere from there. I mean, yeah, exactly.
It's like,
I mean,
It's like, girl, you want a piece of this glow or not?
Yeah, that's all we have, really.
I mean, I still think it's information, but I understand where you guys
no.
are from.
I get that, but like it's frustrating, especially if it's in a league that's a startup or it's new and it's people you haven't played with before. Like you're building relationships, like with trade partners. You don't want to build shitty relationships off the jump, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make because they're worried about like winning the trade or that sort of thing. And the best thing you can do is build the relationship, and the trades will come that you're looking for.
To your point, Mike, my best trades have been with guys that I've played with for a long time. And we have this concept we call price check, which is basically at any given point, you can say price check this player, which basically is your way of saying I'm interested in this player. You come back to them with like essentially what it would take in more or less rookie pick value to get them. So it could be like 1 first, 2 first, 3 first, 101 plus this, plus whatever. And then they kind of figure out from there, they can figure out player values too. And it works really well. And that's the quickest way I've ever gotten deals done.
Nice.
Sound like a Dr.
like
Seuss
that.
book there for a second, Bobby.
1 first, 2 first, first trade me Julio.
Dr. Seuss.
That's and I think that it's interesting because I think that in Twitter culture, Twitter dynasty culture, I think that we're seeing, well, I don't know if we're seeing less of it, but I think one of the reasons that people don't necessarily want to throw out offers is because people don't want to be wrong with their values, and they don't want to come off and just, be a subject on a podcast or be the subject of like, I really think that's what a lot of people think sometimes.
no,
because
J Mike, you're onto something, and I'll explain why. In the GOAT leagues, when I first started, we had action galore. Like it was insane, just trade after trade, and we put out polls and we tweet out, and then we realized it kind of slowed down, and then we noticed guys were a little worried about what, because I was putting the guy's Twitter handle beside which side got what. I
Right.
haven't done that in a really long time with any GOAT League trades. If it's a really good one or a really big one, we'll say, you know what, you guys mind if we put it out there, and I might not even put who the names are. But you're onto something there. And if you're a commissioner or if you're running a league and you want to brew up some action, take note of that if you're putting out polls or if you're putting out the trades on Twitter, because guys might be hesitant. They don't want to lose that trade. J Mike's onto something there.
And I think that oftentimes, even if people say, you know, I don't care what other people say about my trade, I don't care, whatever. Like looking at 88-12 not in your favor, like doesn't feel very good. Right? Like, that's not the best
I don't
look
care.
for your. Yeah, I don't care. I got what I wanted from the deal. I don't care. Well, you know, 88% of 1,000 people disagree with you, sir. So
Here's my
how
advice,
about you try
buddy,
again?
although it's not good for us, stop posting your trades. You'll feel much better about them. Just stop.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's
So-
the simplest thing.
Yes.
Get off Twitter.
Yeah.
Bobby and I are agreeing.
Fuck out of
He
here.
said, "Get off
Go
Twitter."
on here.
Dan and Bobby are skipping away from this one. Just
I know, man.
out into the sunset.
Show's gone off
Yeah,
the rails.
Dan and I have been setting up this whole fight, but the whole time we've been planning our getaway.
That's right.
Unbelievable. No, that's good stuff, and that was a great question. Thank you for that, JDS. That's really good, man. People, yeah, I think, and I've become one to try to put a bow on this. I guess I've become one where Mike, just like you said, oftentimes if I know the person, I might try to do the dance with them to be able to talk through what it looks like to get a deal done. And oftentimes, even now, I've even gotten to the point where I'll send an offer of like something that. Well, I don't know if it would be my main, like, this is my absolute best offer, take it or leave it type of deal, but I'll send something that I think is at least fair or very, very close to fair, or like the max. And then, like, if that doesn't work and I'll counter with something wild, then I'm just like, all right, cool. That was fun. Thanks while it lasted. But at least hopefully it either gets a deal done or sparks something to where there's not a ton of back and forth. Because I think I've come to the point where if I don't have necessarily a trade relationship with you, I don't know that I'm up for all of the back and forth. Like it gets exhausting sometimes, and I don't know that I'm always for that. But I think that if you take the time to build those relationships, like Mike said, special things can happen. You might end up with three men in one set of jorts. You know what I'm saying? So something
Sounds
like that.
hot.
Gabe, I'm out of bullets,
I just
man.
want to skip right to the part where 3 men are in jorts and not like any of the lead up.
Listen, that's for you and Dan to work out with your Minnesota New York connection, that whatever y'all cooking up. That's
The Jort play.
I'll
That's
just be there
right.
so I don't get fined.
All right. I think I'm satisfied. I had to bring
You're all
us
sorted out?
to around this point, you know, baiting you with the Devontae Freeman thing. I don't know where that spiraled, but here we are. About 8 minutes left to 2 hours. That's about the open bar episode length. I don't care if you want an hour. I don't care if you want an hour and a half, 2.5. This is the open bar. We're ish, okay? So
you all know the saying where it says love finds a way. The same can be said of Gabe and getting this podcast to 2 hours. Gabe finds a way. It's by force or by choice. Gabe will find a way. It's beautiful, really.
I do it.
Fridge
This is-
so big.
Gotta shuffle it. I'm performing that at a halftime show tomorrow.
No, you are not. No, you're not. You are an internet pariah. That's what you've become. You create songs about randomness
Yeah.
and then perform them. Listen, man. If there's anybody killing life greater than Gabe Gearing, I haven't met him. I don't know.
100%, bro. 100. I was gonna throw it in here eventually. Just so on the Goat Cast, as you guys know, I'm a bit technically challenged sometimes. So Dan and our guests haven't been able to hear like the sound effects or the intro or the outro. people who don't know our podcast, the Goat District podcast, we got 3 different shows. Gabe is the intro and the outro for 2 of those 3, and the third one is just because he hasn't done it yet. I mean, otherwise, he's
Oh shit, that's
This
balling.
is
Huh?
accurate.
Oh my god, I got some work to do. I bet y'all
Yes,
are
you
putting
do.
those out, huh?
But I'm
Yeah.
just saying, man, like people come on and they hear the anthem for the Goat District podcast that they maybe haven't heard before, and they just lose. They're like, "How's this not Gabe's like best beat?" And I gotta ask you, man, like I don't know your background. I don't know how like the music background. Did you study or not? But your shit is legit, bro. Like, how you not putting something out there right now musically?
I am. Fantasy football Twitter, my niche market.
Man, did you guys hear that?
Oh, we hear that.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
You know the Pope listens.
Dynasty. Listen, I know that these trades.
On all of these plays, on all of these grades, y'all getting played. So what you
What
gonna
you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Say that offense.
Dan was literally depressed.
I was.
Because he couldn't hear it the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean the technical difficulties took it away. You know, I had to. You know, I always download our own podcast, but I actually had to listen to it to be able to get the intro.
It's the hype music. You got the warm up. You know, the spotlight's on you. You know, and coming in, wearing
the intro,
jorts.
and then he stopped it. He's like, "All right, that's enough."
Yeah. Thank you.
So
for
so when is the open bar getting its own intro?
Yeah, that's a great question right there. Yeah.
I mean, come on.
This is the opening bar. Actually, I think I forgot this, but come on, guys. They don't fucking listen to the show, J Mike.
Man, they don't listen. You got so the open bar. Little known fact: the open bar was the breeding grounds for Gabe's budding podcast intro career. It was the open bar intro that people fell in love with, and
With that,
I guess I don't go far
Cheers.
back.
yeah, it's got that Cheers background. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Small. It's small. It was a small little one to bring in, but then just kind of grew exponentially from there. Because
Gabe, how many are you up to total now? Do you keep like track at all?
I honestly don't know the number. I have to go back and look, but I think it's like in the 20s.
I was going
Last time I checked,
could definitely
in 2019. So
it's a potential. It's a potential.
all right, yeah. Chicken or crow. Yeah.
He's got a double album. You know, he's got like a Biggie double album there.
Right? Yeah. All eyes on me. Yeah, people need to quit leaving their podcasts. That's my only request as a intro producer and writer, record whatever. I'm just
next album kitchen appliances, Gabe.
What's that?
Next album all about kitchen appliances.
I think that's where the EP's going, man. We've got to do it. We've got to do it. Had to give him
you know
so
me.
big.
GE.
Yep.
Yeah, you know.
Oh, I need to at Samsung. I don't know. I need to at Samsung. See if I can get in a commercial.
If
Trying to rhyme with Cuisinart though is kind of tiring.
If MF Doom can do a whole album about food, you can certainly do one
Right.
about kitchen appliances.
Yep.
By the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't do this. Gabe, I have not podcasted with you since the announcement. I don't think I've talked to you not over text since the announcement. So congrats, sir. Very happy for you.
Thank you.
Guys, if you don't know, Gabe and his wife are
Expecting, right?
Yeah.
That's in my little note here. That was my last little thing here. Congrats, brother.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
man bun in the oven.
Is that number
Hey, yo.
2? Is that number 2 for you guys?
Number one.
Oh, that's number
The
1.
only
Oh,
one.
that's huge, dude. Congrats, man.
Hey yo. Thank you.
Not going full Rivers. Got it.
He's gonna he or she is fully coming out with a man bun. You know that doesn't matter. Like
I know.
ponytail, the whole deal.
Yep. Going back in. He's not ready yet. Not ready yet if he doesn't come out with a man bun. So
That's awesome. man.
Mike, the first step to 17 kids is 1, man. So you gotta.
Oof.
He's still on his way.
I'll start somewhere.
Indeed.
first step.
And you paired it with J Mike. I mean, J Mike's got a lot of experience, so he can kind of guide you. He's like your shining light. You know what I'm saying? No, that's just normal. We're supposed to spit up all over you. All right, it's all good.
Follow me as I follow Phillip Rivers. Okay.
Oh wow! Can you imagine?
And J Mike has to go, as a matter of fact. Deuces. James, thank you for all the nice things everyone just said about me. But appreciate it. J Mike, you just put something up, and I agree. I think I'd be remiss if we did not have a little draft. So to kind of go full circle, how about we do this? We'll cross over with Casper, and we'll cross over with a fantasy football player that has, been your actual Casper. Sammy Watkins is off the table. Okay, that one doesn't count. He's the Super Bowl champion. Don't put any disrespect on that man's name. So I don't know if there's should there be rules to this, J Mike? Did he have to be in a top 50 ADP or something?
I really just want to go back to the part where you said Sammy Watkins is a Super Bowl champion. I just want to marinate there for a moment.
Yeah.
You remember the movie? I think it was in the movie Next Friday, where it was Pinky. Pinky was in there with his dripping jerry curl every which way, and he looks talking about say it again. Say it again. That's kind of where I want to stay when you said that. So I'm sorry.
I'm not saying it again.
Listen, this is the part where you let your creative fancy do what it does and create something beautiful. So I'm not going to put any fences or any hedges or any restraints on your creativity right now. This is where you do what you do best.
That's fine. I think we could all probably think of a player that ghosted you in 2019. It doesn't have to be on a comeback. He could be dead and gone forever on his Justin Timberlake, but whatever you're feeling. Okay. Just a player that ghosted you. Okay. A player that ghosted you in 2019. Okay. We'll just get 1 through 6. I wanted to go on the female route, but or just a partner route, but I thought that was too deep for the open bar. Bobby's wife is right there. Okay. We know J Mike's being watched. Okay. So we got to keep this a little bit open bar rated. So just players that ghosted you in 2019. And Dan, you are the 101. We're going to do a little loop-de-loop according to my screen. Dan, you're the 101. How's it feel? Who ghosted you in 2019?
Oh man, 2019, it's a little bit more tough. I mean, as far as like over the past few years, I'd definitely go Tyler Eifert because I still, I still keep texting him all the time. But for 2019, I don't know. It would be I would say it would be the combo of Geronimo Allison and Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
That's worthy of ghosting.
That was one of those things where I figured, if you get both, one of them's going to come through for you, and no.
Yeah, we were fighting for so long about who it was going to be, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
So
the answer was no.
Yeah. If anything, the answer was Alan Lazard.
Yeah, he was just sort of barely a pulse, for a while. Occasional. It was like, is he breathing? I think that one might be breathing.
Yep.
The other two, we know they're dead, but that one, he might be breathing.
Just real quick, Lazard seems like a name out of dodgeball. Kind of reminds me of like the Blade Razor Blazer.
Oh, the other Azers.
Why'd you put a D at the end of your name, Laser? Laser.
Lasered. Alan Lasered. Holy shit. All right, Bobby. Who ghosted you?
Yeah.
Football player.
Football player. Right. So I slid into this one's DMs constantly, was hyping them up. You're the best thing to ever happen to me. talking all this love on them, saying, "Oh, you should have been drafted over Saquon Barkley." Josh Rosen, step on down. Breaks my heart to say, but he just ghosted the hell out of me. Hurt me on a lot of my super flex teams because I bought in thinking, oh, he's so good. People don't even know he's going to take this Dolphins job and just run with it. And then he got beat out by Ryan Fitzpatrick. So, it's fine. I might still slide into his DMs next season. We'll see. Just a little bit. I can't let go totally, but he's definitely not responding at all.
Ouch. Ouch indeed. I don't know if anyone's responding to him either, because he's asking for work and they ain't hitting him back. All right. What do we got next here? The third Mike. Who ghosted you in 2019?
Oh man. For me, it's gotta be Ebron. We talked about him a little bit before. I made a pretty good investment in him. And I got him on the cheap like the season before last season, and with all the rumors of moving around and whatnot, and I felt like he was going to pay dividends this season because I don't pay much for tight ends, and he didn't do much at all. It was a real bummer.
This is true.
Yeah, that one hurt.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck did not consider any of our feelings when he just decided to take his ball and go home. So I'm still a little bit bitter about that.
That certainly didn't help the situation.
Yep. Speaking of your tight ends, that we're trying to build this bridge between the elite and the dust that becomes elite. Ebron could not build that bridge for us.
Unfortunately not.
All right, JD.
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines. I'm looking at tight end. There's in those rosters I did not invest highly. Where it kind of remind me that I should have is Vance McDonald. Like, dude, he was under 6 points, I think, in every week except for 2. He went for 22 in week 2 against Seattle, and then he put up 14 against Indy, against my Colts in week 9. Otherwise, he's one of those guys you kept putting in your lineup thinking he's going to pop just because of AB gone and everything going on in Pittsburgh, the quarterbacks coming in and maybe hoping that they're going to rely on the tight end, but that just never happened, man. Vance was just a waste of space.
Another tight end down.
And it supports the argument, right? Just spend on the guys that are going to produce for you at that position,
Yes,
The
no
middle
question.
sucks.
Indeed. All right. J. Mike, who hurt you?
I could flip a coin here, and I'm going to definitely say both names. In the super secret Peter Howard Twitch gatherings that he has, we were all getting in a frenzy and excited about what David Johnson was going to do this season. We thought, man, he's really the guy that's going to be vaulted up to like running back. I don't know, like 2, 3, like just something amazing. And you don't have to pay RB, top 5 RB price for him. Fast forward, here we are. And David Johnson is an afterthought, and you can probably get him for a mid to late second if you're really feeling nasty.
Less.
Or even less. True. Which the people selling will probably just be so bitter about it they won't even do it. Pride's a terrible thing, guys. Don't be so prideful to not get out from under. Anyway, the guy that I really want to say here is Kerryon Johnson. Kerryon Johnson was a guy that I was very confident would ascend into the stratosphere, if you will, of top running back echelon, if you will. And all the pieces were in play. He had Darrell Bevel come in as his offensive coordinator. We saw what he did in Seattle for years. We saw, and even Bobby on Superflex, I was thinking Stafford was going to die this season because of the fact that he was with Bevel, and like I just got Detroit all wrong. I need a mea culpa on all of Detroit. But it's Kerryon. Kerryon should have ascended, and injury bug got him again, and now we're left thinking and hoping what could be with a really, really gross situation, and we don't feel great about it. So Kerryon left me on red for a long time.
J-Mike, you hurt me deeply only to build me back up again, and I really appreciate it. Because
I got you, fam.
First, you mentioned David Johnson, who I drafted with like the 2nd overall pick in SFB. So, it's fine. But then you mentioned Carry On, and that made me feel better and brought a smile to my face because before the season, I stupidly traded for Andrew Luck in a Superflex league, right? And I traded a first and Matt Ryan. And I was feeling like I could quit fantasy. And then my friend goes, "Oh, I see you need a quarterback. I see you got that there, Carry On Johnson. You really like Carry On Johnson. But I'm going to offer you Josh Allen for him." I was like, "Josh Allen, he's gross. But I guess I have to do this." And then it worked out so well for me.
Oh, wow.
You should be ashamed.
Yeah, you should. That's man. Wow. Well
Jeez.
done. Well done.
My best trade I lucked into, like, regrettably. I was like, "Whoa, I guess."
That's all of us, though, right? That's all of our best trades. We bump our heads on something beautiful.
I think you ghosted Carry On that. Yeah, that wasn't nice, man.
Yeah.
All right, Gabe.
All right.
Bringing up the rear.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the one player that nobody said.
Really?
Yeah.
Is
It's
there
all
one
on you.
player?
Yeah.
It's got to. I know who it is. I know
Really?
his name.
Do you know?
There's only one answer that's like glaring.
Yeah.
I know who it is, too.
Is it
all
really
on
that
you,
obvious? Oh, because like you mean like Andrew Luck, like that obvious,
No,
or
yeah.
No,
oh, okay, like a player, because I don't think
Yeah.
that
His-
counts. I don't think he really counts.
His
Um,
name rhymes with rhymes with doo doo.
Yeah.
Biff Booster.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah,
I didn't want to
Yeah.
hear it. That one just hurt way too much.
Oh, that's not even the one I was thinking of. Mine rhymes
I
with-
wasn't thinking of that either. That is a good one though. I mean, yeah, it seemed like Deontay Johnson and James Washington are the wide receiver 1A, 1B in Pittsburgh. Like, what in the world? That is a good one. I actually was thinking of a different, just a player that I think a lot of people were on the fence about, but I think that those who were in belief were like really in belief that it was going to happen with Dante Pettis, and just that San Francisco offense. I mean, Shanahan, and there needed to be like a guy, and Pettis appeared to be the guy, and Samuel wasn't ready, and I mean, Emmanuel Sanders wasn't even there yet, and it wasn't going to be Trent Taylor or whatever. I don't know. Like Dante Pettis appeared to be that number one dude, and he was at a decent price too. I mean, that's why it wasn't like a huge like letdown, because it was still probably like a late first, early second type of guy. But I mean, it was a little disappointing to not hit on a guy that could have propelled up into that kind of third, fourth round startup stratosphere had things broke his way. So, yeah.
Yep.
Kyle Shanahan's just
Trader Joe is feeling me. He got
strong.
it.
Oh, Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
Rhymes with Schmimp. I thought you guys were going for Antonio Brown.
I don't know if you can call that like ghosting or Casper, because he like.
Well, if you go to the
Yeah, I wasn't
beginning of
gonna
the
count
2019 offseason, I mean, it was he was
Yeah.
still somebody. Nobody.
I
has
guess I
fallen
was just
further
counting
apart.
players that like played.
Well, he played.
that even like
He played Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, and
No,
he played against Miami.
Hope
I mean,
or
he had
whatever.
a game. He was a thing, man. He was going to happen.
No, Antonio Brown, what he did was the equivalent of reading your text message, then going to Burning Man, filming himself live, getting just buck wild nasty with any and everything around you, and then burning a big statue of you in effigy. Like that's what Antonio Brown did. That was not a ghosting. That was just a full on blaze of glory.
I was out in Vegas.
No doubt.
I was out in Vegas for the the high stakes drafting out there, and with the Antonio Brown saga going on, I mean, it was like, all of a sudden there was this rumor that he was going to sign with the team, because he'd just gotten released by the Raiders, and so people were all over the map. I mean, his value was just zooming up and down draft boards the entire, 3 days from Thursday, Friday, Saturday before opening weekend. So it was pretty hilarious. I mean, I was just like celebrating, hey, I got Antonio Brown in the 5th round, and then it ended up just turning to crap. And there were other people celebrating that they got him in like the 3rd round or 2nd round.
Yeah. When I think of him, I think shout out to my boy Swags, who we talked a lot because I'm a Raiders fan, and he was like, "What do you feel about this as a Raiders fan?" I'm like, "Dude, when he came in, I was like, nah, And then when he left, I was like, yeah, thank God. And it just, it's sad though. It's sad to see the way that it's gone, for him. But man, like he was all over that, like, don't do it wagon. So shout out to him for being the clairvoyant on the and not being fooled by the smoke and mirrors on the Antonio Brown saga.
Way to go, Swags.
He's definitely doing a good job of promoting those bag of dicks, though. I mean,
Right?
fucking that 5-0 on the Periscope, like, yo, what's up? Not only am I crazy, but I'm throwing bags of dicks at my wife, my kids, and the cops. Yeah, sign me.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Swags was.
Yep.
No. Somehow I doubt that. He's too good of a guy for that.
that's the worst case of slander you've ever done, Gabe.
And bag of dick stock just kind of went.
You say a whole bag?
J Mike is dead.
I am not titling the episode "Bag of Dicks," guys.
But you gotta wonder though, like how did he have the bag like ready for that? That's what I keep thinking. I'm like, does he have a box of these things, like a case in a cupboard somewhere, like a safe?
No, it's
dreams.
It's all choreographed. I mean, it was just product placement right there. The whole situation it's all choreographed.
He's like,
it's like a big giant WWE saga, and we're all just being played.
Yeah.
So he's like the Elon Musk of jujubes, and he's just like starting a new wave with these bags of dicks.
Bag of Dicks brought to you by Antonio Brown.
Man. Oh,
I'm not going to jump in on that one and say sponsored by the Open Bar. That's not our. This is not the time.
You're better off sponsoring jorts.
yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take the Skyline Chili. Fuck. Give it to
me. Jorts and bags of dicks. Wow.
Oh God.
And it all started with Dan's legs.
We've come full circle.
Hey, that was off camera.
The pasty whites.
Okay. Well, we need to say goodbye to people now. Here we, I was like,
Bye.
30 minutes later, here we are. Okay. Let's say goodbye to all of our friends here. This was a spectacular time. Let's start with I don't remember where we started to begin with, but let's go Goat District. JD, what do you have to say to the people? Share what you need to say.
Yeah, I want to thank you and J Mike for having Dan and I. This has been a blast, man. It's been fun. It's always nice to not have to host and record and do all that technical stuff and just kind of to hang back and talk fantasy, especially with a bunch of good dudes like J Mike said. And this is definitely a good bunch. So we appreciate the opportunity. I'm at Goat District. We put out 3 shows now. We've got a third one coming out in the next couple weeks. Ballin', which is going to focus on best ball. We've got the Goat District, which is the flagship. And then Quarter Milli Billies, which is basically me and Dan trying to chase that big money on the FFPC. So join us on the weekly. We're 365 all year round, at least one show a week. We talk player values, dynasty trades, best ball, high stakes, fantasy, whatever you guys want to talk about. Tag us on your trades. Hashtag always be trading. And again, we appreciate the opportunity. Thanks a lot, guys. It's been a good time.
So what is the deal with the Quarter Milli Billies going into 2020? It just be another kind of how you did it last year, basically.
Yeah. So it was the football guys championship, which is the redraft full season tournament they have on FFPC, and then we extended it and got into the playoff challenge, which is for $500,000, and we actually had the winner on a couple weeks ago, last week,
okay.
Austin Martin. But we're hoping to kind of keep it going, and every year, making the attempt during the season and then the off season, so that maybe one year we hit it and then we don't have to come on shows like this. No, I'm just joking, man.
Damn.
Facts.
Pwah, 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 pwah,
We'll still come on, but it'll be our show then.
pwah. Yeah. We've officially bought the open bar.
Yeah.
Last week
We
we had a
didn't even
hostile
know it.
takeover. Yeah.
They just straight up acquired us.
We're the new hosts, man. Last week you guys had a new host coming.
Hey, yeah. That's true. We just rotate through. So y'all are indeed on a quest for the best. I'll get to it on the ballin'. Okay, I owe y'all one. I actually completely forgot. So
All good. We haven't released one
Well,
yet.
you know, it's not like you have anything going on in your life or anything, Gabe. You know,
Not at all.
yeah.
Get
All right.
priorities straight, man. Priorities, brother.
yeah.
No sweat. I'll get you. All right. We'll swing it over. We'll have a little goat sandwich here. Okay. So Mike, the third Mike, you are next, my friend. Say it, man. Say hi to your mom. Say hi to my mom. I don't care.
I'm not the kind of rude guy who says hi to someone else's mom. Also strange to be sandwiched between a couple of goats. Never thought that would happen. But
Give me that
but
bleat
hey,
sound.
Yeah, ooh. But hey, I'm at the third mic, so I run board bets for at Fantasy Football Breakdown. A couple of great guys, Swags the Two Drink, throwing good content out there, and then I do a lot of editing for DynastyFootballFactory.com as well too. Lots of great people on there doing great work with articles, constant retweets at thethirdmic.com if you want to read some cool stuff. They put stuff out every single day, even in the non-point scoring season. We're always building over there. Hashtag always be building. So with that being said, that is me. You can find me everywhere at the Third Mic, except for Instagram, which is at the Third Mic everywhere.
What happened? Why are we laughing? Oh, the bag of dicks. More bag of dicks.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna be busy tonight. Thanks, Trader Joe.
Oh my god.
My goodness. All right. Bobby. Not speaking of bag of dicks, that was a coincidence, but what do you have to say to the people?
Yeah, so you can find me at Rec Fantasy. That's REKEB Fantasy. You can find my maybe or maybe not Daniel Jones article at DLF Football. And I will also make this the first public announcement that the Superflex Pod will be coming back this season. We are going to focus primarily on the animals impacted by the Australian wildfires. So make sure to check that out because you'll learn a lot about those animals and also might be able to help them out. So that's all I got.
And I don't know why I hesitated, but when I type in all the little handles and I usually put people's shows in there, I was gonna put Superflex, but I wasn't sure. So,
well, there you go. It is coming.
Here we are.
I'm just a busy grad student, and now that I've met Matt in person, I want to hang out with him more virtually. So, I just said, "Look, do the pod again." It was a question. It was like, I don't know.
You didn't want to do a pod with me? Was our meeting not satisfactory, Bobby?
Let's move on to the next.
Carry on to the next goat of the goat. I'm just kidding, Bobby. Dano, what have you got to say about that one girl that left you back in 2001? In other words, she ghosted you.
So anyway, yeah, thanks for having us. JD pretty much will let you know where you can find all the good Goat District things happening. I would just like to say thanks for our 2-hour and 23-minute lead in to the Bobby versus Dan 15 round throwdown that's happening next week on the Goat District. So make sure you tune in and listen. Bobby and I are gonna get down to the jorts and we are gonna go at it, and the winner gets a bag of dicks.
In one corner, a man who owns a Corvette. In the other, a graduate student with no money.
Fighting for a bag of dicks.
And on this link that Trader Joe sent out, I'm already putting dicks in the cart. And there are options to the dicks. There are glitter dicks. There's dick confetti and standard bag of dicks. Does anyone have
Oh my gosh.
an idea of where to go with this?
Can you
I like
supersize it?
I like the way glitter dicks rolls off the tongue.
Can you supersize it?
And scene. All right.
All right, J Mike, you're next. What have you got to say?
Yeah, I'm gonna speed through this. I'm done. I'm dead inside. To the chat, appreciate y'all, man. Everybody, even the people who are here at the 2 hour and 24-minute mark. Trader Joe, Big Bill McCarthy, appreciate y'all. Peter, obviously, Peter Howard, thank you. Zach came in as well. But anyway, chat, appreciate y'all. To our guests, humbled to be able to kick it with y'all. Thank you all for sticking with us much longer than anticipated. And we had a good time, a lot of laughs. So appreciate y'all for sticking it out. But truly, it's our pleasure to be able to really chop it up with you guys. This is fantastic. To everyone that's checking us out via podcast form, obviously, whether it be Apple Podcasts, whether it be Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever it is, show your boys some love. Share with a friend if you would. We appreciate it. 5-star rating if you would. We'd appreciate that as well. And if you don't want to give us any kind of 5-star rating, that's fine too. We just are grateful for the time that you're spending with us in your earbuds now, as you're working out, as you're traveling from work, whatever you're doing, making it happen, ordering bags of nether regions, whatever you got to do in life, man. We're glad that we can assist you and get you through. You can find me on Twitter at JMikeCheck, at JMICCheck. You can find the show's handle at The Open Bar Pod on Twitter. And my better half, my main man, Bungie, Genius the MC, Mr. Gearing, if you nasty, and the podcast co-host with the most, Mr. Fridge So Big himself. That's my favorite one. Fridge So Big, juicy. Anywho, on Twitter at FFManBun. Gabe, take us home.
I just typed in dicks by mail into my web browser, and I don't think I should have done it.
Is this a work PC?
That's why I don't think I should have done it. I just realized, like, why didn't I just stay on my phone? Damn it.
What's that option in the go to a new incognito window?
Yeah. And this was the last episode of The Open Bar. J Mike is looking for a new new host.
FF out of work. All right.
All right. Well, this was just spectacular. This was fun though. We're inching towards Brian or Russ's record. I don't know which has it, but I think we're close. So, you guys can say that you were close.
Close. We're the goats, man. We want to take this thing down.
Shit, J Mike. Oh, J Mike.
No,
I mean,
JD don't know.
I got a couple more trades we could talk about here.
Oh, look at that. Would you look at that? No,
I mean, if we are going to be working with a bag of dicks here, don't we want to have the longest?
I hear it's about girth.
It's all about girth, guys. Come on. Hey,
ask Philip.
After that one.
Ask Philip.
I am dead inside. Oh my god!
Turn the camera off. Nice.
Oh man! Hurry up, Gabe.
I know we ain't gonna make it. We ain't gonna make it. All right, this was spectacular. You can go. J Mike, can I? No, never mind. I won't put that on a shirt. Okay, you can go to our store.
No.
I just think it would look cool with like the T.
Oh, bro.
All right.
As long as it's glittery.
Rolls off the tongue, man. Theopenbar.storeenvy.com. Go buy some merch or something. I don't know. Or just do a review. Or just come hang out with us every Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern-ish. Do your thing. J Mike's lined us up for years in terms of guests. Make sure you stay till the end, because then you're gonna you just might miss out on something like this. Beautiful last 45 minutes or so of this show. So put your drinks up, fellas, whether you've got one or not. Okay, a fist works, a clear open water bottle. It's all love, baby. Okay. Absolutely fantastic. And shoot, we'll see y'all next week. Dicks. I mean, deuces.